Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend as we inch ever so slowly to the Memorial Day weekend. That's right, beginning of summer coming up at the end of this week. Can't wait. My favorite time of the year, as I've told you all along. We got Bill Colarulo with us today, along with Ray Dunn producing, as always. I warn you for the next 4 hours that you may not get 100% Ray Dunn. I don't think it's physically possible, but we will try to get him through after the weekend he had. But before we get into all that, you got to have what's on the front page.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Your Philadelphia Phillies, you got to love it. They swept the sixth series of the season with their 11-5 win over the Washington Nationals. They're now 34-14. It is the best 48-game start to a season, along with 1976 and 1993. 5 games up on the Atlanta Braves in the division. Yes, the Phillies have some games in hand there. Alec Boehm yesterday, all he does is get 5 RBI. Bryce Harper drives in a couple. Cody Clemens, new fan favorite. New John Kincade favorite. 2 doubles. He's 11 games with the Phillies since being called up when Trey Turner went down. He's hitting .321. Nick Castellanos gets you 3 hits yesterday. Hopefully, I think we keep saying this. It seems like once a week he has like a 2 or 3 hit game. We say, well, hope he's turning it around here. Maybe. He's up to like 203, I think, hitting or something. I think Nick Castellanos is going to probably hit 240 this season, so he's got to be in for some really hot hitting at some point. Aaron Nola gets you the win as he goes 7 innings, giving up just 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. He's now 6-2 with a 3.05 ERA. Phillies are off today. They will host the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers coming tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. In those games, the Phillies will throw out Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker, and Zach Wheeler. As far as your Sixers, little scuttlebutt over to I wouldn't even call it a scuttlebutt. Just little talk over the weekend. Keith Pompey talking about the LeBron James situation and writing some stuff on that. Is it a case that he may come here or not? That's probably going to go on and on and on all summer. Don't forget your NBA draft. It's right around the corner, June 26th. Just a little over a month away. This weekend, you had a lot of NBA action going on. How do you feel? How did the results of the playoffs in the NBA make you feel about the 76ers? It's something we're going to talk about later on in the show today. The Flyers this weekend celebrated the 50-year anniversary of winning their first Stanley Cup. And a year later, they won their second Stanley Cup. And it's been 49 years since they've won a Stanley Cup. It's unbelievable. It really is. And I know the date very well. When they won that first cup, I was receiving my first Holy Communion. A party at the house turned into everybody gathered around a TV set to watch the Flyers beat the Boston Bruins. But it's unimaginable, and they brought it up on the morning show also. The Flyers have gone 49 years without winning a Stanley Cup, and your 76ers haven't won one in 41 years. That's just mind-boggling, especially when you look at the NBA and you see teams that are going into finals, and the NHL when you see teams going into finals year after year. It's very, very frustrating. Reports out there that Matvei Michkov might be coming sooner rather than later to the Flyers, taken 7th overall. A couple years ago, it was thought that he was going to have to play in Russia for, I remember when they drafted him, they said like 3 years he wouldn't be over till. Then there was a story by Sports Express, I believe it was, that said it looks like he might be getting out of his contract. It would be terminated, and his career would continue with the Philadelphia Flyers. Nothing concrete yet, but we have to keep an eye on that. Nationally, in the NBA, Indiana crunches the injured New York Knicks in Game 7 yesterday. It's a shame. Jalen Brunson breaks his hand yesterday in the middle of the game. I hate to see people get hurt. I like everybody being at full tilt when they go into championships or Game 7s, whatever it may be. So Indiana moves on. Minnesota eliminates the defending champion Denver Nuggets last night. Made a huge comeback. Minnesota was down 20 at Denver, and they make that huge comeback to advance. So on Tuesday, you'll have the Indiana Pacers at the Boston Celtics, Eastern Conference Final Game 1. On Wednesday in the Western Conference, you'll have the Dallas Mavericks at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, that's got to be a little frustrating. Listen to that. Indiana, Dallas, Minnesota. Sixers can't get to that round if their life depended on it. Very, very frustrating. In the NHL, the Oilers and Canucks, they have a Game 7 tonight. And then on Wednesday, Eastern Conference Finals begins with the Florida Panthers at the New York Rangers. In golf, you know, that dirty sport where guys get arrested and all that stuff before teeing off. Well, Xander Schauffele, he won the PGA Championship yesterday in scores that were just outrageous. The whole field was like a minus 240 or something like that. The previous field to have the second best scores was a plus like 45. So it's just crazy how well they scored yesterday. That PGA Championship in 2 years will be at Aronimink Country Club. So that'll be fun. So that's where it is. There's our front page news from the weekend. Bill, how was your weekend? Everything good sports-wise and other?
Everything is going great, Bob. We got the hottest team in baseball in this city, man.
Yeah, they're pretty fun to watch. And no matter how, no matter the way, you just don't, like they said it on the telecast yesterday. They were down, 3-2. And Tom McCarthy's just like, yeah, but you don't really worry about this because this Phillies team will score runs. And then they get 11.
Yeah, and something that my dad always said about baseball, which is great, it's the only sport where you can't run out the clock. In every other sport, you get a lead, you could run out the clock. In baseball, you have 27 outs to take advantage of, and this team takes advantage of every single one of them, man.
Yeah, they sure do. And we talked about Cody Clemens a little bit earlier. They're just getting it from everybody. It seems like everyone is contributing. Spencer Turnbull comes out of the bullpen yesterday and has a little roughness of it. It's weird how he's being used, when he's to be ready and all that stuff. But that 11-5 score, it wasn't even that close, and that's not even all that close. Ray, were you able to consume some Phillies action this weekend besides all the other stuff you consumed?
Yes, I was able to consume some Phillies action, Bob.
Okay.
I had a great time watching the Phils. I said to you before, nothing like Saturday night, my sister's grad party. You got the neighborhood people, you got family, friends, all gathered around the television watching. Clemens hits the home run, and all of a sudden the crowd really starts to gather, get to extra innings, and it's just a room full of people screaming and yelling about the Phils. Nothing better.
That's fun, isn't it? They are they're must-see TV. And yesterday you had a case of, at least I did, you had the PGA Championship going on, which I like. I like golf. You had the Knicks Pacers going on, and you had Phillies Washington Nationals. Phillies are up like 11-2 or whatever it was at one point. I can't turn them off. I can only turn to the other games during a commercial. That's how much fun this team is to watch right now. And it leads into my first question of the day. We've had some really good runs, Bill, over like the last 5-7 years, whatever it may be. Your 76ers, they were the number one seed in 2021. They won 52 in 17-18, 51 in 18-19, 57 in 21-22, 54 in 22-23. Expectations being high. Good regular season runs by them. Now, we know what the playoff entails now, but they were good regular season runs. You look at the Eagles, of course, a Super Bowl run a couple of years ago, 14-3. Last year, they start out 10-1. Good runs. You remember how you felt during the regular season of 14-3 and 10-1. And then the Phillies, World Series 2 years ago. Should have gone to the World Series last year, but get to the National League Championship Series. There was optimism surrounding those teams when those seasons that I just mentioned went on, right, Bill? Regular season's going, and those teams that I just mentioned were kind of rolling. Does this Phillies team instill the most optimism in you of all those teams that I just mentioned? Or is it just because we're in it right now? Because you have to go back and remember how great we felt. Eagles 14-3, Sixers winning 57 games in a season.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some recency bias in there. But it's hard not to be optimistic about this team because they're winning in so many different ways with so many different players. And in baseball, I mean, it's a recipe for success when you have a lineup that's number 2 in runs scored, and you have a pitching staff that's top 3 in ERA. So they can win so many different ways. And we know in the postseason, if the bats go cold, your pitching may need to carry you. Well, they have some really good pitchers on this staff. So we keep trying to ask ourselves, well, where's the weakness? Well, they strike out a lot. Well, not as much this year.
No.
They're middle of the pack, 14th in strikeouts. I'll sign up for that when you're putting up this much offensive production. And then you look, not only do you have Wheeler and Nola, you have a true Cy Young candidate in Ranger Suarez, and the bullpen has been pretty good too. So it's hard not to be optimistic. And I know there's people out there, well, look who they've played. Look who they've played. The National League stinks, Bob. I mean, it's top-heavy. Obviously, the Dodgers, the Braves are good, but only 5 teams over 500. So, yeah, it's hard not to be optimistic right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I went through it last night. Now, every day I do the same thing with basketball and baseball. I'll go through all the box scores, and I'll go through all the scores and look at teams' records. And in baseball, it really hit me this year. Every time I was looking at teams' records, I was like, my God, it's a bunch of 500 teams. And I wrote it down. People talking about, the Phillies are only beating bad teams. Well, 1/3 of Major League Baseball teams, 1/3 are more than 2 games above 500. That's it, just 1/3 of them. 16 of them, more than half of the 30 teams in baseball, 16 are below 500. Like, there isn't a lot of great baseball. There's a lot of mediocrity, it seems like. And I thought it was cool last night. I turned on the national game of the week, the Padres and the Braves, and the Padres just absolutely tortured them. But when they were talking about the big three, and it was Atlanta, the Dodgers, and your Philadelphia Phillies. Like, that's pretty cool. This is where, just a little side note, the Braves scored a run in the 9th inning last night. They were down 9-0. They lost 9-1. They've gone 166 straight games without being shut out.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. We could talk about this, but that number.
Well, I wondered the last time the Phillies were shut out. Ray, do you know the answer to that?
Did the Cardinals get them earlier this year?
They may have had a shutout.
I'm gonna look it up while we're talking here.
Yeah. So I just want to know 610-632-0975. Is this team, rightfully so, the most optimistic you've been of all the Philly teams over, say, the last 5 or 6 years? I laid out a bunch of really good seasons that Philadelphia teams have had. Now, the first Phillies team that went to the World Series back in, a few years ago, that was a surprise. You had the firing of a manager in June, early June. You bring on Rob Thompson. You really didn't expect much, and boom, they go out, win that series in St. Louis, beat the Braves, beat the Padres. That was a surprise. So the optimism during the season, I don't think was there all that much. The optimism last season for the Phillies was probably there, but I don't know if it's as high as this year. Maybe it was. Eagles, you had a 14-3 season. I have to think the optimism was through the roof there, because I remember being on the morning show with John and him talking about Eagles are going to clinch the number 1 seed by Thanksgiving. That's how great things were going for the Eagles in that season that wound up in a loss in the Super Bowl. The Sixers have had a lot of successful regular seasons. I don't know where your optimism was there, but where is it with this Phillies team now? Were they shut out at all this year?
Good memory by Ray. Tuesday, April 9th against the St. Louis Cardinals. They were shut out 3-0. So good memory by Ray. But see, now the stuff you're talking about being optimistic, this was kind of my theme to yesterday's show. I was on yesterday morning, and Ray and I did a little bit of a crossover, and I said that in this town, I think sometimes we get so obsessed with the championships because we've been starved of them. You mentioned the Flyers haven't won in 49 years now.
Yep.
Sixers haven't won in 40 years now, almost 41. So we're so starved for championships that do we forget to enjoy the moment and enjoy the ride that we're on? Because we look at this Phillies team, they're doing special things. I'm all in. I'm trying to enjoy the ride, but every one of us starts to look ahead. Well, they haven't really played anybody. Can they do it in October? Because we've been starved.
Yeah, I'm more of that guy that's in the moment. Like I always say that. I do. I go day to day. I go season to season. It pisses Ray off because I can do the game's over. They lost. You got to look, move forward. I guess I do it a little bit quicker than most. But, Ray, with this Phillies team now, and of all the teams I've described, over the last 5 or 6 years, is this the most optimistic, or is it kind of like what Bill said? Nah, we won't get too optimistic because it's not guaranteed to win in a championship, obviously, especially here.
I'll speak for myself on this one. I'm getting real optimistic right now. And I was trying to bring myself to the mentality of a team recently where I felt this way about them. And I went back to the Eagles team that actually won the Super Bowl, the 2017 team. And this has a feeling of that stretch where they were just beating the crap out of teams. Where they won that game on Thursday night against the Panthers. And then I'm looking right here. The next 5 weeks, they won by double digits in all of those games before they ended up losing to the Seahawks, go to 10-2. They crushed Washington. They crushed the 49ers. They crushed the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Bears. They went on that crazy stretch where they were just kicking asses pretty much every single week. And that, to me, is where we're at right now with this Phillies team. Like, I feel like we're just in a stretch where they just see a bad team in front of you, beat the bad team in front of you, thump them, and keep moving on to the next one. You know, I think of them doing, like, the slide in the end zone, that defense celebrating. That's the way I feel about this Phillies team right now. But I'm just dancing around enjoying it.
But then your optimism came to a crashing halt when Carson Wentz tore his ACL.
Absolutely. But in the moment, I think this is where I'm at with this team right now. I mean, they're 20 games over 500 before Memorial Day. We're not talking about just like a fun, hot start the way we were talking about like the start of the season where, hey, they got to start better than last year or better than the last 2 years. We're starting better than we've ever seen with this team. There are people who have gone their entire lives and not seen a Philly start like this. Like, that's amazing right now what they're doing.
And not only the start, I saw this stat put up on Twitter by Ryan Spader. In their last 32 games, the Phillies are 26-6. They've played over 21,000 games in their franchise history. The only time that they've had a better 32-game stretch, 1892, when they went 27-5. 2 other times they've gone 26-6 over 32 games, 1895 and 1976. So when you say, yeah, we're seeing them do things we've never seen in our lifetime, Ray, Bob probably remembers the 1895 season, but you and I don't.
I was just breaking into the business then, so I didn't get a chance to really cover that team. I was just looking. 1976, they won 101 games. 1993, of course, remember that team won 97. Those were the last 2 teams to start the season this kind of way, 34-14. It is amazing. It really is. And as I said earlier, now one of our YouTubers, Chris McClune, he said, this Phillies team seems to have, quote, something special, end quote, surrounding it. What is that? And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm like, I think there's many ways you could label this something special. What to you guys, Bill, I'll start with you. What to you is that something special with this team?
Wow, because there's so many things.
Right?
There are so many things that are special. I think, and I know that the free agent signings, the big free agent signings, get a lot of the publicity. Obviously, Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto and Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, all these guys, Zach Wheeler. To me, it's the homegrown talent. It's the Alec Boehms, the Bryson Stotts, even Aaron Nola. It's the homegrown talent that I think is making this team special, especially Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott. What they're doing, I mean, they're basically, I don't want to say carrying the team because everybody's doing special things, but what Alec Boehm has done to start this season and now Bryson Stott getting hot, it's impressive, man.
How about you, Ray? When you look at this team and if you label them something special about them, what would that something special be?
That something special is they could beat you in a lot of ways. There are days where they could just, outslug you. And, you have a game yesterday where 11-5 is not really as close as it was, but they put up 11 runs on you. You could go watch the game tomorrow night, and they could win a 3-1 pitcher's duel. Like, they have just a number of ways to beat you and the number of different guys they can have that can really beat you. Christopher Sanchez has himself a nice start the other night, and he's been a revelation for this team. He was a guy a year ago right now, I believe he was still down at Lehigh Valley, and they were worried about his command, whether or not he was going to be walking guys around there. Well, he's starting to figure it out. You look at Cody Clemens comes up, and you go without Trey Turner. Well, now Cody Clemens becomes a revelation for you. And this group, there are still pieces where you're like, oh, yeah, Castellanos might get hot. Well, if he does, how much better can this team get? Kyle Schwarber, we haven't even gotten to June yet, and we can start to see him come alive as the weather gets hotter. Like, there are so many different ways this team can beat you, so many different guys stepping up. But I think that's the something special people see in this team. You watch, and you expect to see them win, and you also expect to see them win in a number of different ways.
And it's funny, we are getting some pushback on YouTube from our friends. Like, yeah, but they're not beating anybody. They're playing minor league teams. Like, they can't help that. They can't help that the schedule was given to them and they have to go where they have to go to start the season. That's where they are. I don't mind it. Like last year, you started out down in Texas, and that didn't go well. Then you had to come up north and go to New York and play the Yankees. That's a hard, 2 series to open a season. Did it play into like a slow start? They had a slow start, and those were 2 tough series to begin the season. I don't mind building momentum. You can't help the schedule. It's not like you're picking and choosing who you play. I don't mind them getting really, really good and maybe gaining confidence by beating these lesser teams.
Yeah, and Jason Stark was on the best show ever last week, and he talked about teams that start this way usually do something special. I mean, mostly all of them are going to make the playoffs, and a lot of them will eventually get to the World Series. So, but this is what I'm talking about. Like Daniel on YouTube saying they could win 130 games. To me, win the World Series. I agree. It's all about championships, but you're not allowing yourself to enjoy something special right now because you're so focused on 5 months from now. Worry about October and October. Let's enjoy the ride.
Yeah, who was it? Was it Andy Reid? Just enjoy the win, man. Yeah. You got to enjoy the season. I do feel bad for people that have that outlook. Well, it doesn't mean anything because what are they going to do? Well, I don't know. It means something to me I just got a text from my friend Lenny who's like, dude, I didn't know the Phillies weren't on tonight. You just made me sad by telling me it's an off day because it's must-see TV. Like, you're missing something really fun here. If you're not, if I were to ask, Ray, you're not old enough. But if we were to ask like a younger generation, what was your favorite Philly season? Before maybe they lost. A lot of people are going to go to that '93 team. Why? Because it was just something special. It came out of nowhere. That was the story then. This team might be something special because they have the best record through 38 or 48 games than any 3 Phillies teams have ever had. So you might be missing. But what is that something special? We'll let you talk to us about that. 610-632-0975. There's a lot of goodness about this Philadelphia Phillies team. What is that? Chris McClune said it on our YouTube page. They have that something special. What is that something special to you? 610-632-0975. You can call us. Love to talk to you about it. Or you can text us if you so choose. Bill Colarulo is going to be here for the rest of the day. I'm Bob Cooney. This is Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, or thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, 10:30 here at the Fanatic. Today's the kind of day you can just sit back, put the feet up. No playoff action going on in any of the sports really. Obviously locally, Phillies are off tonight, so you can just sit back, maybe recharge the batteries a little bit, and smile and enjoy. Because this Phillies team, what they're doing, it's a lot of fun right now. And I don't think my friend Lenny was kidding when he texted me and said, I'm sad. I didn't know the Phillies were off last night. I look forward to seeing them every night. It's must-see TV. They are there right now, Bill. I want to see Harper hit. I want to see Cody Clemens hit. I want to see whoever's pitching. Ranger Suarez is on the mound tomorrow night. That just brings a smile to your face. This is a fun time.
It is a fun time. It should be a fun time, and I think a majority of fans are having fun with it, but there's still a contingent of Phillies fans who won't allow themselves to go all in, saying, hey, this isn't good enough. That isn't good enough. Look at who they've played. Now, in their defense, they've only played 6 games against teams that are currently above 500 just because there's not a lot of teams. You gave the stat earlier.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of teams above 500, but the fact that they're a plus 80 run differential, plus 80, that's insane. So we're trying to tell you, hey, enjoy yourself. It's only May. And Ray, the quote you gave me yesterday when we did our crossover show, I loved when you talked about it's like you have a friend that comes over and visits every night when the Phillies are on.
It's wonderful. It is quite nice. It's like a friend to hang out with every night. People yesterday were asking me, or this weekend asked me, hey, what are you up to? Work's going good. The Phillies are going good. I don't have much else to report on. I'm happy.
Yeah, like a little insight into how much fun this is. So I have a son who has autism, as I've said before, not really into sports. Bill, every night he comes up and watches the last inning. He'll keep checking. He has his little apartment thing downstairs, and he comes up the steps and he just keeps looking. And then he'll sit with me or stand with me for that last inning to see Phil's won, and then every day it's what was the score of the Phillies game yesterday, Tom? 11-5 win. And it's garnering this positive energy. And I have no better example of it than that. Mostly everybody's positive about it. I think you have to reach pretty far into your bad fanhood if you're not a part of it. So we'll go to Jordan in Jersey. What's up, Jordan?
Yo, what's up, Bob?
How you doing, buddy?
How am I gonna? I can't follow up that with this.
Oh well, sure. Go ahead. No, you got balls to the walls. Go ahead.
Well, first off, right, so I think you guys are doing what you did with the Sixers, right? I think that you're disregarding for, in-season, regular season wins, disregarding what we've all seen with our eyes the previous seasons, right?
Well, it's a different season, though, Jordan. See, this is how you look at sports in the wrong way. Every season is a different season. If you're going to keep going on last year, then don't play the season.
But Matt Strom's still our first out of the bullpen. We're still toting out Sir Anthony Dominguez. We've already seen what good teams do to these bullpen guys in the playoffs. We already know what happens to Aaron Nola in the playoffs, hanging balls over the plate, let up 2-3 home runs a game. We can count on that.
Jordan, are you a Phillies fan?
Of course I am.
Well, then why the hell are you letting yourself get... You know what? I'll let Ray put you in your place. Go ahead, Ray.
What? Really?
Hear my point out, though.
Okay, go ahead. Finish.
My thing is I want the Phillies to win 120 games. But I want us not to forget what we need because I don't want to be in that position again. So I want to hear people say bullpen, bullpen, bullpen. So at the trade deadline, we have the guys that we need to make the run actually in the playoffs instead of just sitting back looking lost. Now, Ray, put me in my place, but that's what I'm trying to say.
And what you're trying to say right now about this bullpen. Yes, obviously at the trade deadline, you're always looking at a bullpen arm because that's what contending teams do. And the trade deadline is, over 2 months away. So we will get there at some point. We'll have those conversations at some point. This is a team that's 20 games over 500 before Memorial Day weekend. And you're so concerned about this bullpen, in which right now you get so upset about Matt Strom being option number 1, which I don't think he is. But okay, he's gone 18 2/3 without allowing a run. His ERA right now is sub-1. Jeff Hoffman, ERA sub-1. Orion Kirkring is sub-2, and they're starting to use him in high-leverage situations. Hey, Jordan, I let you speak. It's my turn to speak on this one. You start to get upset with the bullpen. Even the guys where the ERAs are higher. Let's look at Alvarado. Let's look at Soto. Alvarado allowed 5 runs in his first appearance out of the bullpen, so that ERA right now is inflated to what you've gotten. Soto had a 5-run blow-up against the Rockies. Other than that, right now, that's where his ERA gets inflated. You're looking at this bullpen, you're getting upset with guys that are actually giving you results and have helped put you in a position right now where, again, you're 5 games up on the division of the Braves. I didn't expect them to be ahead of the Braves right now. I didn't expect them to be 20 games over 500 before Memorial Day. We can have fun, and we can also realize, yes, at the deadline, we absolutely should be asking for a bullpen arm.
Watch it differently, Jordan. Watch
Also,
it differently. Thanks for the call.
Aaron Nola leaving balls over the plate in the postseason. Have you watched him the last 2 postseasons? Is that what your takeaway from Aaron Nola in the postseason has been? The guy's been one of the reasons why they have made those runs in the postseason. You can criticize all of last year during the regular season. The guy brings it in the postseason.
Woo! Ray. How do you like that, Bill?
Yeah, Ray got himself all worked up. But now, look, I'm the one saying enjoy the ride, and I agree with you, Aaron Nola. But he did have that bad start in the NLCS last year.
He did, but I mean, if you go over the last 2 years, I would say maybe 8 starts by Aaron Nola, something like that with the playoff run that they did. I would say 6 out of 8 have been really good.
Yeah, I've been part of the reason why you moved on. The difference why you've gotten past the Braves the last 2 years is because Game 3, they've had a starter that hasn't been in a position to deliver for them, and you've had Aaron Nola out there on the mound. The reason you've beaten the Braves the last 2 seasons, they've had someone get shelled, you've had Aaron Nola, you've gone up 2-1, and then, we're going to hand that one over to Game 4, still at Citizens Bank Park, and you're going to win the series. That's why you've won.
Right. Yeah,
but you look at Nola, and he has. In 2022, he had a few good starts, and then Game 1, World Series, gives up 5 earned runs in 4 1/3. And then last year, he has, again, a few good starts, and then when you needed him, Game 6, NLCS, he gives up 4 earned runs.
So we're going Aaron Nola over the billion-dollar lineup, going 3 for 36 in the last 2 games?
I'm just saying, I'm not, look, I'm playing devil's advocate based on that call, is Aaron Nola has not always shown up. He's shown up more times than not in the postseason, but there have been games where he's let us down in the postseason.
Got a 3.70 ERA in the postseason. He has had tough starts, absolutely. He's been the reason why you've gotten past the Braves both years, and that's been the hurdle both years. Last year, the reason they don't get to the World Series is not Aaron Nola.
So the question we have out there off of Chris McClune from our YouTube page and a friend of the show's, what is the something special, in spite of what Jordan said? And Jordan, you know we love you. We love having the conversation. What is the something special that you can put on this Phillies team right now? Because Chris McClune said it. I don't know what it is. They just seem to have that something special. Well, that's our job. Let's find out what it is. 610-632-0975. Steve on the cell. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on,
Gentlemen,
Steve?
how are you?
Great.
I'm driving home from the shore. I love their resiliency and the way the bats just come alive when they're down in the later parts of the game.
So the something special, how would you exactly categorize that, Steve?
I'm going to say it's the young guys and the no-quit attitude.
Fair enough. I mean, we're watching guys grow up right before our eyes.
Absolutely. I mean, the bottom half of the order is carrying the team, and the top half isn't doing it. But then last night, Nick Castellanos comes back. 3 out of 4 hits, 3 out of 4 at the plate, whatever. It's great. My question is, with the absence of Turner, we brought Merrifield in here to be an all-around guy. Does Topper stick with the hot bat with Cody Clemens, or does he try and be sneaky and switch things up? That's for you guys to discuss.
It's a good question, Steve. Thanks so much, and safe travels to you coming back from the shore. It's a good question, and I just messed that up. I'm all about riding the hot bats, but I sat here and said that I had, what was my word last week, Ray? That I had a smidge of I wasn't unhappy, but that Rob Thompson doesn't throw out a regular lineup on enough for my liking. But that's a very small little minor detail when it comes to me. But Cody Clemens, man, he is fun to watch at the plate right now. I guess you roll with him somehow.
I mean, yeah, they're keeping him in the lineup. I think you probably end up rolling with him for a bit now. Ride the hot hand with him. He's giving you something that you're looking for. I think he's going to get his opportunities because of the way he's playing right now.
Yeah, and I don't think we can overstate when we talk about the culture of this team, the vibes. They seem to really like Cody Clemens in that clubhouse.
They do.
So not only has he got a good bat, which is Bryce Harper's bat, which is pretty cool, but look, I trust Rob Thompson. I really do. I know that we've questioned some of the decisions he's made in the postseason, but you just look at what he's done as the manager of this team. He takes over for Joe Girardi after a 21-29 start. Rest is history. They go all the way to the World Series. Last year, when they start out 25-30, a lot of people are panicking. Rob Thompson saying, relax. We're going to be fine. And they come one game away from going to another World Series. So in Topper, we trust. That's how I feel.
And you know what I like, Bill? I like that he approached the slow starts this offseason. He talked about it. He said, look, we're starting slow, and I don't like it. I don't want it to happen. And, some coaches might be like, or managers, well, yeah, but it's a long season, and sometimes you have your droughts. Ours just so happened to come at the beginning. No, he said he wanted it to change, and my God, it's changed at 34-14. Just incredible so far. So that's the question we have out to you now. What is the something special in your mind about this Phillies team? 610-632-0975, because 34-14, yeah, that is pretty special. I want to tell you, 10 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. Okay, Phillies are the talk of the town. Best record in baseball, best team in baseball, according to a lot of national pundits. What is your something special about this team? 610-632-0975. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic.
FanDuel.com.
10:46 here Monday morning at the Fanatic. Just looked outside during our break. Very nice day outside. I think we're going to have a really nice week. Warm, 80 degrees, something like that. So everything to get ready for Memorial Day weekend, one of my favorite weekends of the year. Getting ready for summertime. Absolutely love it. Okay, what we have out there now, we're talking Phillies today, and we're going to get into some Eagles and some Sixers. Also, a little Flyer story that's going on that I mentioned in the front page earlier that might be a little bit interesting. But we're talking Phillies, and I have to thank our friend Chris McClune on our YouTube page for putting out there just seems to be something special about this Phillies team. What is it? In your mind, what is that something special? 610-632-0975, because this is a lot of fun. And I say it all the time throughout my life. Fun's the best thing to have. So let's keep riding along with this fun that is the Philadelphia Phillies. Chris in Delaware, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Bob, you realize that the Phillies have played 6 more games than the Braves and won 5 of those?
I do. That's how they have a 5-game lead right now.
Somehow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think the Braves have a doubleheader today. And anyway, what's special is that they just put so much pressure on the other team offensively. I mean, they're not depending on the home run to score. They strike out for a little bit from time to time. They'll have big strikeout games, but they're seeing a ton of pitches, and they're playing solid fundamental offensive baseball. And eventually, they're going to put enough pressure on a team, where they're going to, have a chance to get back in it at the end if they need a couple of runs. But people have talked about, Alec Boehm needs to hit all these home runs as a third baseman, but he's leading the major leagues in RBIs with only 5 home runs.
Yeah, so you're something special, Chris, would kind of be along the lines of they're just good.
They're, it's just, it's historically good, really. I mean, Phillies did it. Much in the same, they work pitchers. They saw a ton of pitches. They just put so much pressure that eventually they're going to get you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate the call. That kind of sums it up in a little bit of a bigger atmosphere. But Chris is right. It's just you just sit back, and it's a lot like I said earlier. What Tom McCarthy said on the broadcast yesterday. It's 3-2. Phillies are down or whatever. And he's just like, yeah, you don't worry about it. They're going to score runs. And Andrew had an interesting thought on the morning show today, talking about Alec Boehm having 5 RBIs, and he did hit a home run yesterday, but it was just his 5th of the season. Are you upset that they're not hitting more home runs with this? I equated it to this, Bill. I said it's like a caller we had last week, and I'm not sure if you were here or not. We had a caller last week that said he doesn't like the way Joel Embiid scores his points. I said, the guy averages 35 points a game, and you're going to question how he scores them? Do you care how the Phillies score runs? Do they need more pop? Is it anything that concerns you that way?
Well, they're still top 6 in Major League Baseball in home runs. So I'm not concerned about it. And you're right. At the end of the day, what you want is runs. So if they're winning games, look, going into the season, you had people being negative saying this team is too reliant on the long ball. And now that they're not relying on the long ball, we're saying they need to be more reliant on the long ball. I mean, we're looking for things to complain about.
Probably, yeah. And I thought it was really cool yesterday in the game. Kind of a weak fly ball out to left field that the Nationals left fielder just I don't know what he was doing. It looked like he had a map in front of him and he was following the wrong road to go get the ball. But it winds up foul, and then Boehm takes advantage. Very next pitch, boom, home run. Like, that's the sign of a team that is something special. That's a sign. But what is it that you think is the something special about this Phillies team? 610-632-0975. Ray, we have some texts on it.
Yeah, we do. We got some people checking in on just what they feel makes this team so special. First-time texter from New Jersey saying, I feel how they play the game. They're having fun while playing, which is refreshing to watch.
That's when you say something special, that's where my mind goes to first. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this, Bill, but it seems like they're a likable team.
Yeah, they do seem like a likable team. And I mean, what we're talking about special is they're focused every night. I mean, that's the thing that I've found so impressive is that they're a likable team. They enjoy playing together, but they show up every night wanting to win the game. Even though it's a long season, it's 162 games. I haven't seen a game yet this season where it was, okay, Phillies are they're just going through the motions tonight. No. I mean, they're coming. They're hungry. And Rob Thompson talked about it. Not only did he want the quicker start, he said it. I think he actually used the words, they're hungry, and they want to take a bite out of this season in spring training. So I just love watching this team. They do. They have great vibes. We know that who's the Stubbs is the what do they call him? CVO, Chief Vibes Officer.
It's a position I've held at many companies before.
You held it all weekend.
Yes, I did. I was in charge of all the vibes in various different places. Yes.
Yeah.
CVO everywhere I go.
So Ray turned into a grown-up this weekend. Just to give a little a side note here, Ray's sister, Bill, graduated from high school, and they had the graduation party this weekend. So congratulations to her. What's her name, Ray? Michaela. Congratulations, Michaela.
Yeah, big congratulations.
So Ray's parents have the party at the house on Saturday, and Ray, 24-year-old Ray is in charge of the graduates, is in charge of the 18-year-olds at the house. So he said, Bob, I got to tell you, I turned into like a grown-up this weekend.
You didn't have that mustache, I hope, when you were
No.
Because they wouldn't have taken you seriously.
I was not allowed, actually. My mom told me that if that thing is still on your lip when you get to my home, you will not be allowed inside. So I decided I would show up to my sister's graduation party, so I, did shave off the mustache.
So Ray was in charge. Now, a lot of the kids stayed over that graduated with your sister, and Ray was in charge to make sure, everything went all right with them. He said at one point he had to go down and tell the boys to stop carrying. These are Ray's words, Bill. So I had to go down and tell him to stop carrying on. I was like, whoa, all of a sudden you just turned into a 70-year-old. Stop carrying on.
The soul of my youth left my body this weekend.
I don't know if that's all of the sudden. He's an old soul.
I guess.
I
know what you're saying. Not as much as
Andrew.
No, yeah, Bob sees me. Bob and I see each other every day. Bob and I text outside of this. I would say Bob sees me as a young guy. I got to leave it at that.
I will say that Friday night I did have to send him a text, and I'm like, dude, not that he was doing anything wrong, I just said, make sure you all have each other's back.
That was
because they were having fun, and they were on a mission to have a really good night, and they were
successful.
going 1,000 miles an hour. So I had to do the fatherly, yo, dude, just make sure you all have each other's back. And
it's funny. I was talking about that text this weekend because I'm at the grad party. I was like, well, what's it like working with Bob? How you enjoying everything? And I was like, Bob is so much fun to work with, but also Bob has morphed into like another guardian of mine where I get the text like, are you all right? Is everything going okay there? Hey, make sure you take care of yourself tonight. It's one of the great things about working with Bob, like behind the scenes, I feel like I now have someone else that's just looking out like, hey, man, just be smart, okay? Figure it out.
Yeah. Well, been there, done that. So, and have kids your age that are doing it also. So, yeah, always got to keep a good eye out. Okay, when we get back, Bill, I'm going to ask you and the listeners to do something that may make you physically sick to your stomach.
Oh, boy.
When I first thought of it last night and I heard this stat last night, it made me a little woozy that I even thought about it. But it's a subject I have to bring up, and it is about the NBA playoffs. So we'll have that. Also, we have some more text of yours about the Phillies. Anything you want to talk about. But the question right now that we have out there, what is the something special about this Phillies team right now that has us all so excited? 610-632-0975. Check in with us. We're here until 2 o'clock. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11:01 here at 97.5 The Fanatic. We've been talking a lot about the Phillies today with Bill Colarulo and our producer, Ray Dunn, the impressive Ray Dunn. Talking a lot about the Phillies. Hey, look, it's the talk of the town sports-wise right now. It just is. And as much as we, look forward to the Eagles, and we'll get into some Eagles a little bit later on today, but at 34-14, the excitement level is something really cool. And, Bill, I brought up something last week. The subject was what is something about sports you really look forward to or something that we underrate, maybe something like that. And Amy came up with Red October and how special Red October is. Now, look, do our lives evolve around opening game of the Eagles? Absolutely it does. And I say that this is my favorite time of the year because I love the summertime until it becomes fall and then football starts. That's just how I roll. I love all the different seasons, mostly because of the sports that are going on. But this is an exciting time for this Phillies team right now, and it's not something that should be swept under the carpet. It's not something that needs to be looked at by saying, yeah, but. No buts. Just roll with it right now, right, Bill? Shouldn't a sports fan be that way?
Yeah, I've been preaching it. Enjoy the ride because it is special, and we haven't seen a team do this since 1993. Before that, 1976. And I gave the stat earlier. The last 32 games, we haven't seen anything like this ever. You got to go all the way back to 1892. Now, the 76 team matched this 32-game stretch, but, that's it. So you need to enjoy the ride. We'll worry about October come October because this team, I'm not jinxing it, let's knock on wood, but this team, with the start that they've had, have almost guaranteed that we will have Red October.
Yeah, it really is cool. And to hear, like, Tim Kirkjian, I think they played a cut from him this morning on the morning show talking about, look, the Phillies are the best teams in the National League. And then he goes, no, they're the best team in baseball. That's cool. That's cool to be labeled that. I'm not into power rankings and all that during the season, but when someone like Tim Kirkjian says it, that's when you really take it to heart. All right, we're going to get back to more Phillies in a minute, but I had this absolute sickening thought come to my mind last night. It rooted in the pit of my stomach, and it all came about as I was watching the end of the Dallas Mavericks. The Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks last night. Wait,
Minnesota
I'm all messed up.
Yeah,
Minnesota Timberwolves and the Nuggets.
8 o'clock.
I'm watching the end of that last night. It got a little chippy there at the end and guys waving into the stands and all that stuff, whatever. But as the game's coming to an end and Denver gets unseated as NBA champions, the announcer on the game says, yep, now it'll be 6 straight years that the defending NBA champion doesn't get out of the second round. So immediately I said, I want Boston to win the NBA title this year. Why not? Sixers aren't in it. I hate Boston. I can't stand the Celtics. The fact that I had to wear green in high school as our team colors and all that, a part of it, just a little bit of it, was sickening to me because that's how much I hated the Celtics growing up. But if this is a thing, Bill, if it's a thing that, teams go on these long playoff runs that wind up winning championships, and they don't have enough to come back the next year, all right, let's have at it.
I'll take it. And honestly, at this point, what's another championship for the city of Boston? They've had 14 damn championships since 1984. 14 championships since 1984. During that time, we've had 2. And that's why I was saying, when we go back to the Phillies, the reason why I think a lot of fans are having a hard time enjoying the ride is because we're so starved for championships in this town. 2 since 84? And they got 14? Sure. So if them winning another one prevents them from getting back next year, I'll take it, Bob.
So I remember when the Eagles were in the – I'm coming to you. I remember when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, and people were saying back in 17 – just give me a win here, and I don't need another championship for 10 years. And at the time, before the game was played, I said, you're full of stuff. That's crap. And sure enough, halftime of the next game the Eagles played after winning the Super Bowl, the team's getting booed off the field against Atlanta. That's crap. So I'm kind of talking out of the side of my mouth when I ask you this question, Ray. If you were to be guaranteed that the Boston Celtics will not make it out of the second round next year, are you okay with them winning a championship this year?
No. The only thing that's full of crap is the logic that the two of you possess on this one right now. Are we seriously sitting here saying Boston should win a championship now so that they don't win a championship later?
Well, it gives the Sixers a better chance of moving on next year if they're guaranteed not to get to the second round.
You know who would be the one to buck that trend and change that?
They'd beat the Sixers
They
in
would
the
beat the
first
Sixers to change that. Let's not all of a sudden act like we've got some great sports karma going on here that's going to protect the 76ers. Oh, the Celtics win this year, and for sure the Sixers will get by them next year. No. That's not how it works here. The idea that I would enjoy watching a parade for Boston for the thought that maybe next year they would continue this trend of the last 6 years is ridiculous. Their purgatory right now is winning the East and losing in the finals. That's what I'm looking for. Them winning the East, losing in the finals, because the way we begrudge the second round right now is the way that Celtics fans feel about the max out of the ceiling of their team. They think that they're the best of the East, they run the East, but they get terrified of the West right now. That they think they've elevated above everyone in the East, and they lose in the West. I talked to a couple Celtics fans. They're like, yeah, I'm not even that fired up because we're just going to walk through the East, and then we're going to end up losing the finals again. That is their version of the second round. Let them live in their little sports purgatory of having that happen while we try and figure out our own problems. Don't give me the I have to all of a sudden support the Celtics because some trend over the last 6 years has worked.
Something's got to change.
Yeah, and that might
it
be
might
that
have
trend.
to be this drastic.
No, it's not this drastic.
It might have to be. Look,
in no world will we root for the Celtics.
The people that are coming after me, I totally understand it. And the YouTubers like, this is blasphemy, all that. I totally agree. Look, I've been around longer than any of you, a lot of you listening, and you guys sitting here now. I hated Celtics green before you were an itch in your dad's pants. Like, I hate the Celtics with a passion. I can't stand them. But if it means getting rid of them next year and that's the team you have to go through, all right, go ahead and win your championship. I'm all right.
This is so backwards. The way
Bill,
you're thinking
come on,
of
you're
this
on
is
my
so
side.
backwards. You guys are ridiculous for this. Don't take a side on this one, Bill.
If it was guaranteed, I would probably take it. But there's no guarantees. Just like you said, someone's going to buck the trend. But really, they've had so many damn titles in Boston anyway. I mean, it doesn't – whatever, man, whatever. If you're a kid in Boston, I forget, I saw the stat before, but if you're a kid in Boston, how many damn parades you've been to already? I mean, I was born a few days after the Sixers won their title in 83. So in 40 years, I've seen 2. If I was born in Boston, I've been to 14 parades already. Oh. Could you imagine?
No. And I remember being up in Boston, Sixers Celtics, and I was walking from my hotel. I would walk through Boston Commons and stuff where I stayed down in the, what district was it? Like the theater district. I would stay down there and I'd walk to TD Garden. And I remember walking one time, and there was snow on the ground. And I remember like just kind of kicking some snow aside, and there was all this red and blue stuff on the ground. I was like trying to figure out, I'm like, what the hell is that? It was confetti because I had a parade the week before for the Patriots. Like, seriously, you couldn't clean it up. I don't mind the town Boston. I like Boston, the town. But I can't stand the Celtics. So, yeah, me saying this, and boy, am I getting killed on here. But if it guarantees the Sixers don't have to face them next year. Like, I'm tired of the Sixers. This is the talk that we keep hearing this offseason. Sixers have to make a move to make them the second best team in the East because, nobody's going to be better than the Celtics next year in the East. I need some assurance. That might be it, right?
No,
if they win the championship, they're not going to get out of the second round next year.
All right, let me walk you through a path here.
Wait, hold on, though. Do you remember Bob said to a caller about an hour ago, what happened last season, you can't talk about this season, then why even play this season,
That's why
right?
I say I'm talking out of the side of my mouth on this whole subject.
Get him on that one. I was going to go down a different path. Imagine they win the title. They don't get out of the second round, and the Sixers find a way to lose to the Knicks next year in the conference final. Like, the idea that, like, we get some perfect sports karma where the Sixers walk through the East because the Celtics win it this year, that's not how this works. You know it. You know it. You know it deep down. You know the sports karma doesn't work like that. We'd be cheering for the Celtics. The Celtics would go down in the second round. Sixers would find a way to lose to someone else, and we'd be disappointed. They got to the conference finals, we'd still be freaking out.
Wait.
I can't. No. Boston getting another title.
I'm done with it.
No Boston title.
We all agree that we hate the Celtics, but let me ask you, if Indiana didn't go crazy yesterday shooting, and the Knicks won Game 7, who would we be rooting for? Knicks Celtics.
I think the Celtics going to the finals and losing is the funniest possible outcome because of the Celtics fans that I know that right now are like, yeah, we're the best in the East, but we'll never be able to get over the hump and then win that title with this group.
Who do you think has the better chance of beating the Celtics in the NBA Finals? Probably the Timberwolves, right?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that kind of just like bothers me. And I was saying it to Bill before the show. And look, I am teasing on this thing. It was a stat that I heard last night during the end of that game. It came into my mind. I got people on here. Oh, my God, Bob became a hot take guy. I'm just playing with everybody, okay? I'm not becoming the hot take guy. I'm not looking to stir a pot. I was really just kidding around. I wanted to throw it out there just to have some fun with it. But
you're wearing – you can't see it on YouTube. He's got Boston Celtics gym shorts on right now.
Yeah.
Larry Bird jersey underneath that.
I respected Larry Bird.
I know.
I did respect Larry Bird. But what kind of got to me was we're talking about the Sixers not having been in the finals since 2001. We're talking about the Sixers not winning a title since 83. And now you have the likes of – now Indiana is a great basketball state. I loved going there and watching games and all. The way they love basketball is terrific. But we're talking about either Indiana, Dallas, or Minnesota getting to the finals this year. That hurts. That hurts if you're a Sixers fan. Like, what is going on?
And this doesn't hurt because we all like him, but T.J. McConnell is in the Eastern Conference Finals before Joel. Who saw that one coming?
Yeah, and he's playing really good basketball.
I'm rooting for him, man.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I think I told Ray I was texting with him yesterday morning, just about not much about the game, just saying good luck and stuff like that. And he was pumped. He was ready to go. And the way the announcers were going on and on about him, and that bench played a huge part for Indiana in that game yesterday and for the whole series. There is look. You look at these games now. I just mentioned the 4 teams that have a chance of going to the finals, including the Boston Celtics. Is there anything you take away from it? Because I have some people on here saying, like, Bob, you need 5 players to play. You don't need the stars. I wasn't talking about grabbing stars. I said that the LeBron James talk was out there. But is there anything you take away from any of these series, any of these teams, maybe any of these players that you say, you know what, I wish the Sixers had more of that instead of maybe what we've been talking about?
I don't know. I mean, they're such different teams, too, because Indiana plays such a fast-paced style of basketball that I know you could play probably with Tyrese, but you're not playing that with Joel, right? You're not going to be able to play that style.
I don't know. I was thinking of it. Logical thinking says no, but he's going to be 30 years old. I'm not saying you're taking the ball away from him, but the Los Angeles Lakers back in the day played a brand of basketball with Magic Johnson, and it was, we are running, and if we can't, we get the ball to Kareem. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the leading scorer in NBA history for like 40-plus years. And for a while there, he was the second thought. I don't know. Getting out and running. I watch the Indiana Pacers. You know who it reminds me of, Bill? The Iowa women's team.
Interesting.
How they just want to get the ball out front and go. You get a rebound. There aren't guards coming back to the ball. They're going. You're going forward all the time. Is that a new style of way to copy to try to play in the NBA?
Well, Iowa came up short in the NCAA final.
They did, yeah. And they had the greatest shooter probably in women's history.
See, I don't know. It's so hard because we don't know who the Sixers are going to be able to put on this team. If it's LeBron James, you're not playing that style, I would think, right? You're not going to play that fast-paced style. But, I mean, one thing I did learn that we knew, this just confirmed it, is I don't think a Thibodeau team can have success in the playoffs. Eventually, they're going to hit a wall. The way he has them play, how hard he grinds them during the season, eventually they hit a wall. This time it happened in the second round.
Yeah, and it's a shame they incurred all the injuries they did because, like I said, when you get to a playoffs, I don't care who the team is. I want both teams, like fully stacked at full strength. I want them playing on the fastest field, playing their best basketball, baseball, whatever it may be. But you can do all the who cares about New York, and I understand that. That's fine. I don't. I want to see the teams fully go at each other.
So as much as you say that, I'm out of sympathy for other fan bases that have to deal with injuries in the second round that derail their postseason. Like, I got no sympathy to give because I got enough emotions to deal with on my own side.
Well, I think some of I don't want to say sympathy. It's my want more than sympathy for other. My want is for every team to be fully healthy. Part of that comes from, my God, where would this Sixers team have gone, put in whatever year you'd like, if Joel Embiid had been fully healthy?
Yeah, I don't want to see injuries either, but you look at the Celtics outside of the Jalen Brunson fractured hand, could you attribute some of the injuries? Well, I guess not. I'm thinking of who was the guy that Batum took out in our series? I'm drawing a blank on his name. Bogdanovich. I guess that was more of a fluke injury, because I'm saying, could you attribute it to that Thibodeau grinds them so hard throughout the season that eventually they're going to get injuries? Where you look at the Sixers and Embiid, I know people say he's injury prone, but a fractured orbital? I mean, that was so unlucky. Whereas some of these injuries to the Knicks players, could it be because he just grinded them so much during the season?
Yeah, it could be. You know, when I was growing up and playing, we had a coach that would run us really, really hard every practice, and then have us go over plays and look to see how well we did it when we were tired. You forget, or you get lazy when you're tired, right, Bill? You know from playing football that when you're exhausted is when a lot of times injuries happen, because you're not moving at full speed. You're not getting to where you want to be, therefore leaving yourself open to injury. It's a good case about a Tom Thibodeau team. Were they worn down? Probably, right? Yeah. But a lot of that has to do to, you bring up Bogdanovich. They were just so shorthanded going in. It's a shame. I would have liked to have seen a game yesterday where both teams had their full complement of players and see how they would move on. But Indiana was they were on a mission yesterday, and I don't think there's any way that New York, even if Jalen Brunson wasn't hurt.
Now the Pacers will take on the Celtics, who will be without Porzingis. How big do you think of a loss that is for them?
It's funny. It is. I saw, what did I see? I think I saw on Twitter yesterday him taking some shots and then walking off the court. I think he's pretty close. Obviously, you take away a player like that, anybody that's scoring 17, 18 points a game for you, you take away a player like that, it's going to hurt you. But this Celtics team, they just figure it out. And they just get, and I'm not just talking about this team, it seems like through the years, they just get contributions from people that you look at and you say, how the hell is this kid Pritchard scoring 18 points in a big game? You know, how is, player B doing what he does? For some reason, they go up to Boston and they just seem to learn how to play, and that's what it's going to be. So, fun series, Eastern Conference Finals. The 6th-seeded Indiana Pacers, they start at the Celtics Tuesday night. Number 1 Celtics overall. And then Wednesday, your 5th-seeded Dallas Mavericks at the 3rd-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. I saw a lot of people saying last night how cool it was watching Karl Anthony Towns and Edwards out on the podium having fun with each other. I'm not ready to go there to say Minnesota's, yay, they're a fun team.
I love Anthony Edwards.
Do you?
This is the postseason. Like, once the Sixers, stink wore off of that season ending, I start watching Minnesota and just falling in love with Anthony Edwards. Like, I really, really enjoy watching him play basketball. And I think the personality, too. He's got the and there was an interview, I think, mid-season. It was while I was sitting in a hotel room, one of those road trips I was on, and I was sitting there just watching him talk, and I think they did, like, a walk into the arena with him. And I was like, yeah, this is a guy that's going to be really cool and really fun for a long time.
All right. See, I haven't been close enough to that throughout the series. Like, I haven't watched a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff or anything like that. So I'll look forward to seeing that maybe. Karl Anthony Towns has always impressed me. I remember interviewing him at the draft and how articulate he is. And he went to a school up in North Jersey that I coached against, I played against when I was playing and all. And I wore a high school hoodie one day to a shoot-around where Karl Anthony Towns was, and I hear somebody calling me out, and I'm like, what the hell? And I look over, he was upset that I was wearing a Camden Catholic hoodie when he went to St. Joe Metuchen.
Oh, he went to Metuchen.
Yeah.
I used to play them in ice hockey all the time.
Oh, did you? Okay,
I played ice hockey for Eustis. But I'll tell you who hasn't always been impressed with Karl Anthony Towns. Jimmy Butler. If you remember that whole thing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, that was a case where, what did he call him out? That was when he was calling everybody out, talking about how him and backups beat all the stars.
He had the third stringers, and he played them in the practice, and he was going off on everybody.
And wasn't Thibodeau the coach back then?
Yes.
So, and Thibodeau, I remember hearing Jimmy Butler. Thibodeau loved that Butler was doing what he was doing. And look, I mean, that's what you get with a Jimmy Butler. So to now it's come full circle here to the 76ers. I know everybody, there's a lot of people who want to see Jimmy Butler back here because Joel Embiid and him got along. That was for 50 games. I'm not sure over a full season that this team needs Jimmy Butler's personality in that locker room.
Look, 5 years ago, great. Would have loved it. Wouldn't have mind seeing it at all. Would have liked to see it stay. No, I've traveled that road. I'm good. Ray, I forget where you stand with Jimmy Butler.
The content's just too good.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's the best basketball move, but there's there's that little piece of me inside that's like Jimmy Butler as a Sixer back here. Oh, it's like you can't quit it. It's like one of your buddies that just keeps going back to the same girl, and you're like, man, you got to get over it. I might not get over this one.
I don't think I like the fit though either on the court. I'm talking about the locker room. I'm not sure if I want Jimmy Butler taking the ball away from Tyrese Maxey as much.
Oh, I'm not. I honestly think the basketball thing is the big reason. Like, it's funny when I sit here and think about putting him on this team. I'm like, yeah, basketball-wise, I don't think this makes any sense for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually anti that.
Well,
and that's why it's just the idea of Jimmy. It's the idea. It's not the actual in practice Jimmy Butler. It's the idea of Jimmy Butler that has me intrigued.
But you talk about like on the court, the basketball side. That's why I've been such a strong proponent of they should go out and get LeBron James. It's not even LeBron James's name that I think a lot of fans hear. It's the fit on the court seems perfect, doesn't it, Bob?
Yeah, it does. It's I still go with it's so funny. Fit and best player seem to be like mortal enemies when we talk about the Sixers. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't want to go star hunting. I want to get people who fit. Or my in is get the best players you can and make them fit. So there's a lot of different things to be said on it. What I was surprised at, this is Karl Anthony Towns' 9th year in the NBA.
Time flies, man.
It does. And if you want to talk about, hey, maybe Minnesota does move on and get to their first championship with him. Another example of things don't come easy. You're talking 9 years. Joel Embiid is right around that mark also with the 76ers. So to say the time is up, the window's closed, it's all it's just not true. Sometimes it takes that long. Okay, when we get back, I have 2 players in this city that I kind of look at as kind of the same. Now, one is a budding star that we absolutely know. The other might be getting there too. I want to take a look at them in 2 different sports and see what you have to say. Bill Colarulo is going to be with us all day long. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Thanks for joining us. 11:30 on this Monday morning. We have Bill Colarulo with us all day today, taking you up until the aforementioned best show ever. I'm kind of trying to look something up here I should have probably done it on the okay, there we go. We got it now. So, talking a lot of Phillies today. A lot of positive thoughts when it comes to the Phillies. It almost seems like playoff time-ish, because of the excitement, because it's must-see TV. I took a TV out back yesterday. I had to do some work out back. I take the TV outside, set it all up and stuff so I could have it on while I'm doing stuff out back to watch the Phillies. That's where they are right now. They're just so much fun. And when I'm watching the Phillies, and I asked earlier, somebody said on our Chris McClune on our YouTube page, said they have just, in quotes, something special. So I asked, what is that something special? To me, one of them, and this is the comparison I'm making between two athletes, is Alec Bohm. I think we're watching this kid just kind of turn into a star right before our eyes. He has that it factor up at the plate to me where his confidence level is just through the roof. So it brings me to a subject I wanted to ask you about. Alec Bohm and Tyrese Maxey, in my opinion, have a lot in common in their growth as professional players. And the future obviously seems really bright for both of them. Two-part question here that I'll pose to Bill and to Ray. I mentioned Alec Bohm. I mentioned Tyrese Maxey. Look, if we're going to go as far as stars in the league, I think Maxey has a little bit of a leg up on Alec Bohm right now, but I think they're both progressing in the same direction. Can or should we add another player to that category here in Philadelphia? So first of all, are you okay with saying when I look at Bohm and I look at Tyrese Maxey, I kind of see similarities in their growth moving up the ladder? And then, Bill, is there somebody else we should add?
I agree with you on Bohm and Maxey, especially because homegrown guys drafted by the Phillies, drafted by the Sixers. We've seen them grow into stars in this league, and I'd be shocked if Bohm doesn't make the All-Star game this year, right, with what he's doing.
Leading the league in RBIs right now.
But there is a player that I think sometimes gets overlooked on the Philadelphia Eagles that should be put in that category.
Okay.
That's Devontae Smith. Third season, drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, and all we've seen him do in 3 seasons, set the rookie franchise record for the most yards in a season in his rookie year with 916. Then he goes back-to-back years with over 1,000 yards. He's now a captain on that team. Eagles took care of him, gave him that big payday. But 3 years with the Eagles, homegrown talent, I would add Devontae to the list.
Okay, real good. Now, Ray, are you cool with the comparison that I make between Bohm and Maxey, first off?
Yeah, I could see it. With the number of years and the growth you've seen steadying to put themselves into that all-star position, I can understand. Even though Bohm's 4 years older, takes a little bit longer, especially from a college baseball player versus a guy that came out, one and done at Kentucky. So, yeah, the age thing is they're probably progressing at the right ages for the arc of their career.
All right, now, Bill has Devontae Smith. Do you have somebody else that you would add to kind of that's there right now? That's a really good one, too, Bill.
I feel like I might need to stop bringing this guy up to the answer to every question because I think people are going to think that like I'm on his payroll or something or that I just am enamored with the guy, but I kind of am. Ranger Suarez.
That's pretty good. How old is Suarez now?
28. But service time-wise, this is 4 years.
Right, okay. There might be another person that we could add to this list. How about Matvei Michkov?
Potentially. It's funny. Well, he's not here yet.
No, he's not.
But there was a flyer that I have written down that I was going to talk to you about because Travis Konechny, man. I mean, Travis Konechny for the Flyers has grown into a legitimate all-star in the league. Now wears the A on the Flyers. And this past season, 76 games, 33 goals, 35 assists. So for me, if I'm looking for a Philadelphia Flyer to add to the list, it's Konechny.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Now, the reason I brought up Michkov, and you have to put stink on his name when you say it, Ray. I don't want to know Michkov. No, it's Michkov.
You say it well.
Okay? Yeah. Well, I had practice. So it came out, and I'm reading a tweet from Sam Carchidi, who's a longtime Flyers writer and absolutely awesome. This is from what he posted on Twitter. It has been reported that number one prospect Matvei Michkov is expected to terminate his KHL contract with SKA St. Petersburg and leave to continue his career with the Flyers. It goes on to say, Sports Express has reported, and this is in quotes, according to SE, SKA striker Matvei Michkov will continue his career in Philadelphia. The contract with the St. Petersburg club until 2026 will be terminated. The rights to the hockey player in the KHL will remain with the team. The Flyers are aware of the report and are unable to confirm it at this time. Michkov is only 19 years old. Now, John Kincade on the morning show today, he's got some ins with the Flyers, and if you listen, you probably know who they are. He said that he's talked with them and that they said they can't really say anything about it now, and John's guess is that this won't be happening this year. My thought on that was, and I'm not, going against anything John said, what I'm saying is the Flyers will not say anything positive. They're not going to come out to anybody and say, yeah, we're real confident he's going to be here next year. I just don't think that's how it would play out. So I only added that in because of the subject that we have at hand right now. Now, in Tyrese Maxey, you have a kid that's an all-star. He was just voted most improved player of the NBA. He also wins a sportsmanship award. You got the smile. You got the fun. That is Tyrese Maxey. Is he that far ahead of an Alec Boehm? Because I really do feel like I'm watching a star being born here in Alec Boehm. Is it just a fun thing that I'm bringing up, or do you guys really think that they're closer as far as contributions to their team or to the league than maybe we thought?
I think it's a pretty good comparison. What I would say to that is Boehm needs a signature moment this postseason to get to what Maxey just did, because Maxey had that signature moment. Now, it would have been great if they won the series. They didn't win the series, but he put the team on his back in Game 5 and hits that huge shot at the end of the game. So that's where I would put Maxey a little above him right now.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
But if Boehm does it in October, then he's going to be on the same level.
Right, what do you think? Is the difference between them as far as I don't know how good they are and what they mean to their team? Is it vastly different?
I mean, because of different sports, I'd say it's vastly different in that regard. But what you're getting from Boehm right now is the support to your superstar. Because one of the big holes I thought this team was going to have coming into the season, okay, who's going to be the right-handed bat that's consistently batting behind Harper in the lineup? And will they respect that batter? Well, right now, you got to pitch to Harper because Boehm, with runners in scoring position, I mean, he leads the league in driving runs in. So the numbers, I don't have to go too deep into what he's doing at the plate to justify that to you. I think the what he offers to Harper and this lineup is big in terms of supporting the superstar of this team, which, again, going across sports, it's tough. 5-on-5 versus just the game of baseball. But the support he offers to his team superstar, I see it as Maxey-esque. And what he's doing right now for this Phillies team and the way he helped carry the bats when some of the big money guys weren't going, yeah, I think you can start to draw some comparisons despite how difficult it is across sport lines.
And I think what gets lost a lot of times with Alec Boehm, it's mentioned and it's not a subject that has been like avoided or anything like that, but I don't know if we've talked about it enough. And that's how much he's improved defensively. And, you watch sports enough in life and you look at a guy and know, do they have the physical tools to be it? Alec Boehm, when he first started at third base, it was, man, he's 6'5". Is he going to be able to get down enough? Is he, this and the other? He's been spectacular defensively, Bill. What do you attribute that to? Like a kid like that coming up, we remember the night he dropped the ball and he said, I bleeping hate this place. And things turned since then. Do you think it's more mental? Or it's a question I ask often. Is it more mental or more physical, you think, for a guy like Alec Boehm?
I don't think it was mental with Boehm necessarily. I'm sure that played an element in it. But for me, it's hard work. It's putting in the work at your craft to become better at something. And when Boehm came up, I thought, too, okay, this guy's going to move to first base. He's not going to be a third baseman. And to his credit, he's worked at it, he's developed it, and he's turned into a really good fielder at third base, which now has opened up the door for you to do what you've done. You have Bryce Harper playing first. You can have Schwarber as your DH. So Boehm becoming a true third baseman has really helped this team build this lineup. So I attribute it to a lot of hard work. And It's something you didn't see with other athletes in this town. Ben Simmons, right? Didn't put in the work to develop a shot, and that was frustrating. And you got a guy like Bohm, you got to give him credit because he has become a really good fielder.
You know, and it's something that I say often that isn't very, not too deep thinking, but I just, Alec Bohm and this Phillies team, they like to play baseball with each other. They have fun with each other. That might be one of the something about this team that you can't really pinpoint, but they just seem to like to play baseball. And Cody Clemens, that's tough going up and down from AAA and then coming to up here and having some success and then going back down. The players love him. Like Bryce Harper loves Cody Clemens, you know, and it's cool to see a superstar taking, I don't want to say he's taking him under his wing, but having the friendship that he does with a guy that's bouncing back and forth between AAA and the majors. I just think there's something special about this team when it comes to that, too.
I do, and I think culture is important across all of the major sports. But with baseball, I feel like it's even more important at times because it's that feeling in the clubhouse and it being such a long, slow game and 162-game season. I think you really need to get along in the locker room and in the clubhouse where, look, it's important with all the sports. And we all try to put our finger on what happened down the stretch with the Eagles last year. And some people point to the culture and cracks in the foundation there. So it can certainly sink you. But I think you're right. The vibes that this team has, and we have our CVO here, Ray Dunn, their CVO, the Chief Vibes Officer, Garrett Stubbs. But it's important. And that's why before the season there were a lot of talk about bringing in maybe some players. And I'm forgetting the name now. Who's the pitcher a lot of people wanted to see them sign?
Snell or Montgomery?
No, who's the one that has all the problems?
Oh, from Los Angeles.
Bauer?
Bauer, yeah.
Bauer. There were a lot of fans saying, hey, they should go out and get Bauer. And
No.
that's exactly what I was saying. Look, why do you want to mess up the culture of this team? This guy's had problems in the past. So I think you got to give the Phillies credit because, they've brought in a lot of good bats. They've brought in good pitching. But they've built the culture, too, and that culture is carrying them, and I agree. That may be the most special thing about the Phillies.
So Ray brought up something that perked my ears when we were just talking about the Phillies. And I kind of had this subject in my mind, but I want to bring it up to you. This is a time of great joy surrounding the Phillies. We had callers earlier and people on our YouTube page that had the, but, they can win in the regular season. Yeah, but are they going to win when the playoffs come and all of that? Well, I want to throw out a little something out there that might be a but I don't think it is. We'll get to all that, a whole lot more. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, welcome back. Monday morning. Hope you're having a good one as we get ready to turn into afternoon. It's funny, Bill. We were talking to Bill Colarulo, who's here with us all day long today. We were talking about the style of basketball a little bit earlier. You know, like what are things that are going to be here to stay and what not. I might have been on the crossover I was doing it. And I said, you know, the way of the three-point game in the NBA, that's here to stay. Like, that ain't changing. Kids are coming up now, and that's what they do. They shoot from 30. I showed it to Ray, and I should have showed it to you, but you were in conversation. I just got a text from my friend whose daughter is 13 years old. 13. Playing in a tournament this weekend down in Atlantic City. Huge tournament. Like he was telling me, Dawn Staley was there, pictures of Gino Auriemma. Like, oh, not to watch his age daughter, but to watch the older kids. But she's part of that tournament. He shows one video of the point guard throwing his daughter the ball. And this has nothing to do with it being my daughter's friend. Although, way to go, Abby. She's standing at the hash mark in front of her bench, okay? Gets a pass from the point guard. She's like looking to dump it down low or looking to pass it to somebody. Nobody's really doing anything. She shoots it from the hash mark. Nothing but net.
How old?
13. 13-year-old girl, nothing but net. And Ray, I'll show you the video next break, Bill. Did it look like an unnatural thing? Did it look like an unnatural shot?
No, it looked like something, hey, you got that space? Fire away.
It's unbelievable. From the hash mark, a 13-year-old girl. I love it. But that's the way, that's the way the game's going right now. Okay, when we were talking about the Phillies a little bit earlier, Ray said something about Alec Bowman racking up all these RBI. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think that Alec Bowman was – what do you have, 97 RBI, I believe, last year, which is really good. And anytime you're around there, that's great. 97 says to me you're the second, maybe the third RBI guy on the team. This year he's leading the league in RBIs. We had callers earlier who were looking to spew a little bit of negative on the Phillies because – it doesn't mean anything unless they win a World Series. This strange lineup that they have, has it ever come across your mind that, but that's going to come back to bite you? And, of course, the big one is Schwarber being a leadoff hitter, who's really puts numbers up of a four-hole hitter. You have Alec Bohm, who hits for average, doesn't hit many home runs, but he's your four-hole hitter. And as Ray said earlier, they have to pitch to Bryce Harper because they don't want to face Bohm. Like, is this unconventional Phillies lineup a stroke of genius in your mind or something that may come back to bite you a little bit later, Bill?
Well, we were talking earlier about Aaron Nola, and Ray brought up how cold the bats went in the NLCS. I don't think it would have mattered what the lineup was in the NLCS. When nobody's hitting, it didn't matter. So I don't think it's going to come back to haunt us necessarily because of the way it's structured, as long as everybody's hitting. And to the Alec Bohm point, he leads Major League Baseball in doubles. So we're not going to be okay with our leadoff hitter leading Major League Baseball in doubles because he's not hitting, not our leadoff, our cleanup hitter, because he doesn't hit enough home runs. I mean, to me, we're just grasping for straws at trying to find problems with having Bohm in that spot. But I don't think it could come back to haunt us because you look at Kyle Schwarber, and I don't know what the record is now with him in the leadoff spot, but it was pretty damn good before the season.
Oh, yeah. It's really
got to be
good.
even better now.
Yeah, and I say it, Ray, because I find this another part of the fun that this Phillies team is giving you. It's unorthodox. It's not, you have a manager that is driven, although yesterday I think he went, was it yesterday? I think he went lefty at the top of the lineup because I think you went Schwarber, Stott, Harper.
Yeah, they were not letting William. They didn't want to let William settle in.
Right, exactly. So, is this unconventional lineup? Because I think that's what it is. Is that part of the allure of this team? Because I think it's cool as hell.
Would you like your leadoff hitter to lead the league in walks?
Yeah, that's a good. What did he walk? He walked like 19 times in a 3-game stretch or something?
Yeah, it was 7 over the last 2. I think.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 34 walks right now to lead the National League. His on-base percentage is .340. I don't know if you guys checked the calendar recently, but we are about 10 days away from a big time. 10, 11 days away from a big time for Kyle Schwarber. He's got .340 OBP and June is just around the corner.
Does he heat up in June?
Oh, just a little bit. Just a
Yeah,
little
he
bit.
likes turning that calendar. You had a stat on home runs earlier with the Phillies, Ray, and it was a subject on the morning show today. Andrew brought it up about, how can people have questions about Alec Boehm, even though he just hit his 5th homer of the year yesterday. But what's your stat on home runs for the Phillies this year, Ray?
So they have 54 home runs right now through 48 games, and I love having fun with just bringing that out, making it a whole season-long thing. So looking at their per-game home run, what they'll end up getting for a season, right now they'd be on pace for just under 183 home runs.
Okay.
Which would be less than they hit in 2018 of 186. And over the last few years, you look at 2023, they hit 220. In 2022, they hit 205. They're not even on pace for the power numbers, like even close to the power numbers they had over the last 2 years.
Wow.
They're 20 games over 500. And again, I make the joke about June Schwarber, and there's some truth to that joke of like what he's been over the last couple of years. I don't think they've found quite yet the power numbers that this lineup could potentially have. And they're 20 games over 500.
Wow. That's pretty good. I didn't realize they weren't hitting as much as they were before. Like, you looked at the Braves last year. God, they bombed. And you thought the Phillies were kind of right there with them. Wow. Power numbers down. Doesn't matter. That's how good this team is. Doesn't matter. And I heard somebody say earlier today, they're not even playing on all, hitting on all cylinders right now. Okay. That could be really exciting if it does happen.
Well, you just mentioned Atlanta. Their power numbers are down. They only have 43 home runs so far this season.
Oh, really? Is that right? Wow. They just look. I don't know. I've only seen like 3 Atlanta games, and I would say 4 or 5 innings of each of those games. Nah, not scare me.
Ronald Acuna, Cody Clemens, same number of home runs.
Exactly. Right? That's where we are right now. Okay, there's a big movie coming out that a lot of people are talking about, and it seems like a lot of fun. It's going to hit all ages. It also is concerning my next question out to you. It's the movie If. Now, you need to put your thinking caps on here, everybody, because I'm going to ask you to come up with the if answer when it comes to Philadelphia sports. If this happened, then what? That's what we're going to get into. 610-632-0975. Bill Colarulo is with us all day long. If he doesn't leave, he's going to be here till 2 o'clock. There's your if right there. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. 12 o'clock hour. So glad you're here with us as we are just surrounded by great stuff with this Philadelphia Phillies team right now. So much fun to be had with them. So we've been talking a lot about them. We dipped in a little bit to your 76ers. Maybe something goes on this summer. Don't forget the draft. It's only a little over a month away. NBA draft, something like June. What is it? I have it here somewhere. June 26th. Wednesday, June 26th is going to be your NBA draft. So a lot to look forward to, but in the moment right now, it is all Philadelphia Phillies, which is fun. But this weekend, sitting at home watching TV, I kept seeing ads pop up, and I kept seeing interviews with people involved with the movie If. Now, the guy, is it a local guy, Ray? Do you know whoever produced it or came up with it or directed it? I
thought it was John Krasinski.
It is.
Came up with it.
You are absolutely right. So he was talking about that through his two daughters' eyes during the pandemic. They would go and play, and he would just kind of watch the world before the pandemic came through their eyes, and then when it did come and they're inside and all of these things going on where they went into their own like little worlds. If this was going on, then that. So I'm going to throw out a fun little question. And I want people, you got to put on your thinking caps here. I'll give you an example of mine when we start. If. A lot of people say, if Alshon Jeffrey would have caught that pass against the New Orleans Saints, the Eagles could have won 2 straight Super Bowls. My if is this. If Alshon Jeffrey were to have caught that pass, I don't think the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl again. I just don't. That team I don't think was geared up as much as the team was the year before. I just don't. That's just me. If he would have caught that pass, I don't even know if they would have won that game. Because you're still down in New Orleans playing a team that absolutely ransacked you earlier in the year. Yeah, so that's my one if. It's not a bad note. I'm just saying a lot of people say, they would have won. I don't think so. If he would have caught that pass, I don't know if they would have won that game. Bill, do you have an if in Philly sports? There's a lot of them. And if you have one, 610-632-0975. Put on your thinking caps. If this would have happened, then what? What do you have, Bill?
I have several of them, but I'll give you my biggest if. And this one's a recent one. I'm sure a lot of fans agree with me on this. If they don't call the holding penalty on James Bradbury, what happens in Super Bowl 57?
That's a good one.
Because you go back, it's a 35-35 game. Minute 54 seconds left. Patrick Mahomes throws an incomplete pass. If they don't call the holding call, Harrison Butker kicks the field goal. It's a 38-35 game. And Jalen Hurts, who was absolutely balling out in that Super Bowl, would have got the ball back with a minute 50 left to either go down the field and tie it up with a field goal or maybe even better, score a touchdown and win that game. I wanted to see Jalen Hurts have an opportunity. And some people question Jalen right now, whether or not he's the future, whether he's the franchise quarterback. If JB doesn't get the holding call and Jalen brings you down the field and scores that touchdown, I don't think anybody's saying anything right now.
Interesting. So you're pretty confident they would have won that game if that call was not made?
Confident they would have won, I probably would say 50-50. Confident they go down the field and at least tie it? Absolutely.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts at that point, he finishes the game 71% completion rate, over 300 yards passing, a quarterback rating of 103.4, 70 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And if you remember, right before that drive, they were down 8. He drove them right down the field, ran in the touchdown, and then ran in the 2-point conversion. That's called an octopus, Ray.
Yeah, Ray.
When you go back-to-back touchdown, 2 points. So I think there's no doubt in my mind they would have at least gotten field goal range. And do you think Jake Elliott's missing that field goal?
Probably not. I kind of like that one. Right.
What are you all angry with this if question?
Yeah,
now.
right? What about you? There can be some if positives, too.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we got the great one from Vu Drew on our YouTube page. Oh, if my aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real original there, bud.
I am going with the if Cliff Lee doesn't blow a 4-run lead in the NLDS, the Phillies at least have another pennant.
Ooh.
I don't want to say that they're taking down that Rangers team in 2011. I think they probably do. But I think they definitely will beat that Brewers team in 2011. I think that we're at least talking about one more pennant. They would have swept them. They would have swept that Cardinals team. We would never have to have the conversation of, oh, wow, Charlie Manuel played all the starters the last game of the season, 2011, to get the franchise record for wins. That took the Braves out, put the Cardinals in. The Cardinals end up beating you. No, we wouldn't have any of it. Phillies would just swept the Cardinals. They would have beat the Brewers in the NLCS, and we'd have at least have another pennant here. And that 2011 team would not be remembered as the one that won all those regular season games and then didn't win a single playoff series.
That hurts. We're kind of spewing negative on this if. Is there any positives that, like, if Joel Embiid didn't break his foot before the NBA draft, the Sixers probably would have wound up with Andrew Wiggins or something.
Or Jabari Parker.
Or, yeah.
That would have been
So
that was tough.
I just get a text from my dad.
Okay.
If Hurts didn't fumble, the Eagles would win the Super Bowl by 1 point. Getting me all worked up. I hate when that gets thrown in Jalen Hurts' face because he had an unbelievable Super Bowl. Don't come at me with that.
That's fair. Because we talked about something earlier today, and Bill, you brought it up, that, like, if you've only seen, 2 titles in your lifetime? Is that right? You've
The
seen the
08
Super Bowl,
World Series.
08 World Series.
And the Super Bowl in 17, was 18, but the 17 season.
So he's 2 for 40.
Yeah.
I don't care what league you're in.
And really, it's 2 for 160 because I'm a 4 for 4 guy.
Yeah, right?
So you're talking 2 in 160 seasons. That's why we're an angry fan base, Bob. That's why.
Voodoo, you know you're my man. I'm just teasing you on that one. But what is your if? What do you have? There's so many things that have gone on in this city. I think it's fair to say crazily. Like, it's been unbelievable, the stuff that seems to happen to Philadelphia sports. I don't know if the Sixers don't make the trade for Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
Do you have an NBA title?
Well, you're not getting Tatum.
No, you're not getting Tatum because they would have stayed and gotten him. But, like, just
Who would they
pick?
Yeah, who would they have taken at 2 if they stayed? Were they 2
They were
and they
3.
stayed? They were 3.
They were 3
They
moved up. Yeah.
Yeah, Fultz, Lonzo Ball, and then Tatum. So,
Yep.
So either
Imagine
way.
that.
Lonzo was going to the Lakers, so I guess you still end up with Fultz. You just end up with the pick the next year instead of having given up that pick. I'll try and go positive for you.
There you go.
If the ball doesn't go off of Keanu O'Neal's knee, do the Eagles win a Super Bowl?
Good point.
So there you go.
That's
They
a good
could have
one.
lost that game. They could have lost that Atlanta
Easily.
game.
If Julio Jones catches 1 ball in the end zone, would they have 4 opportunities down there?
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep stealing them because the guy on hold, I actually have written down what he had, so we can go to him.
It was one of mine, too. Bill in Utah. Bill, where are you in Utah?
I'm actually at a place called West Jordan. It's about 20 miles outside of Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay. Beautiful there, I bet, right?
Oh, man, I love it, man. I'm actually about 25 miles outside of Park City.
Love
You know,
Park
I
City.
know- I
I've been
know
there
that.
a few times. I love Park City.
Same.
Yeah, it's gorgeous up here, man. But, I still miss back home, man. I miss the food. I miss the shore.
We're here for you, buddy.
I hear you. I come back once a year for a game, for an Eagles game, so I got to figure out what game I'm coming back to this year. Probably Jacksonville. But,
Good man. Good man. What's your if, Bill?
All right, I'm going to go with the Flyers. Eric Lindros. And if he never got that near-death experience from that hit by Scott Stevens, Flyers would have won the Cup that year. And also, I want to add to that, if Pelly Lindbergh had never passed away,
Ooh.
I think that cost us a dynasty.
Bill, that in tragedy, but that is a good one for the subject that we're bringing up. Listen, good luck to you out there, and safe travels when you come back here. All right, buddy?
All right, no problem, bro.
All right, thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. That is a good one.
So I remember as a kid growing up in South Jersey, we would drive past that wall all the time.
Just did it the other day.
My family would always point to it and say, Pelly Lindbergh, Pelly Lindbergh. I was too young to remember Pelly Lindbergh, but I just remembered the wall.
Yeah, I was playing junior college basketball at the time, and that day had practice. That Sunday morning happened on a early Sunday morning. Drove by there then, and what a tragedy that was. But for those out there that don't remember, because it was a while ago, Pelly Lindbergh was a goalie that the Flyers had from Sweden, very young and really, really good. Good enough that there was comparisons to Bernie Perron at the time. And, he got tragically got in a car accident and killed one night after a game. As I remember, he didn't even play that game. Like, he had the night off for rest, and then went out with friends and didn't make the greatest of decisions. But Eric Lindros if Eric Lindros learned to skate with his head up,
Oh, man.
That might be the if on him.
And you know something else about Pelle Lindbergh, real quick, go back to that. You know, he played for Team Sweden in the 1980 Olympics when the USA had the Miracle on Ice. They actually played against Pelle Lindbergh.
Was that the championship game? Because they beat the Russians to get. People always think the Russian game was.
Yeah, that was the game before.
Right. The championship game was on a Sunday.
Wasn't it Finland? Let me see.
It could have been. It could have been. I can't remember that. I can remember that Friday night that game was played, or it was afternoon, but they showed it at night. So the game was played at like 2:00 in the afternoon against the Russians, and then they showed it at like 7:30 that Friday night. I remember watching it like it was yesterday. Right, a little before your time, 1980, but trust me, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was Finland that they had to beat to secure the gold medal.
Okay. So what's your big if? If this didn't or did happen, then what would have been the outcome? I do this not because it's a popular subject. Somebody said we do this on the show all the time. I don't think I have, but what is your if? Because there's a movie coming out or has come out or it's about to come out. I'm not sure. But the movie If. And I'm asking you the question about Philly sports. What's your biggest if? Or maybe you have a couple of them. Ray, we have some text messages talking about it?
Yes, we do have some text messages here. If Jake Elliott doesn't hit that monster field goal against the Giants, would the Eagles have won the Super Bowl?
That's terrific. Because think of it. They would have gone to 1-2, Bill. Right?
Yeah, that set them on a run right there.
Yeah, you're down. Last play of the game, 63-yarder, was it? Did he say 63, 62?
63 or 64? Yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, okay.
Was it 61?
It was in the 60s. Let's put it that way.
It was a field goal that a lot of people can't make.
Yeah, and that I didn't think he was going to make that day. But, the Eagles were 1-1 at the time.
It was 61.
61. And if you remember at the time, so the Eagles had won the first game. Their second game, they went to Kansas City and lost. They played hard, played a good. It was a good, tough game. But they didn't run LeGarrette Blount once. So there was like all this, you got to roll the blunt. All that stuff was going on. The people down at the Eagles practice facility out with signs and all of that. So people were like, all right, where is this team? Doug Peterson, what are you doing not running your running back one time during a game? And then they play the Giants at home. And I remember this game. It was a Peyton Manning game, the likes of which we never really saw before, Bill, where everything was just quick hitting, snap, throw, snap, throw, snap, throw. And he killed the Eagles. He threw for like 340 or something like that. But Elliott makes the field goal at the end of the game to make the Eagles 2-1. That's a great one. If they fall to 1-2 there.
Yeah. And good memory, Bob. Eli Manning threw for 366 in that game on 35 of 47. He only averaged 7.8 yards completion, but picked them apart.
Yeah, I just remember that. Another if, and I can – Tasty Cake Dom is floating in my mind right now, who I know is listening in his hometown in Williamstown. He's floating in my mind, and the name in his head is Andrew Toney. If Andrew Toney didn't have foot problems, he would have been a Hall of Famer. And there's no question in my mind about that. It's before a lot of people's times. Do you guys have other ones? Because I have some really good ones on the – we have some other ones on the text, right?
Yeah, one on the text that is, I think, something that I'll live my entire life wondering what if, because of how much he meant to my childhood, how much I enjoyed watching him play baseball. If Ryan Howard doesn't tear his Achilles.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that 2011 series, because there never would have been a Game 5.
He's getting worked up.
Never would have been a Game 5 if he didn't blow that 4-run lead.
Yeah.
If Howard doesn't blow his Achilles, how many good years do you think he had left? How old was he then?
I don't think he would be in the 40 home run. Like, he had already gotten to, like, I think it was he hit 31 in 2010, 33 in 2011, something like the home runs. I remember we did a game when I was in, I might have been with you, Bob, back at the morning show where I did Howard's home run total for every year for, like, from 05 through.
Oh, unbelievable.
But
he was 31. He was 31. He did play 5 more seasons after that.
Yeah, on a contract. That's when that contract kicked in, the 5 years, $125 million, right after they blew out his Achilles. Yeah, I think he probably would have had a couple more 30, like mid-30s types of home run years versus the 20s he ended up in. I think he ends up hitting like 14 the next year, 11 in 2013.
Spot on. Yeah, 14, 11. Then he bounces back a little bit, goes 23, 23, and hit 25 homers in 2016.
Right. He just didn't look right.
No. And I think he would have been probably hovering in the mid-30s for the next like 3 years, then probably have the drop-offs to the 20s or something like that. But I mean, he just never looked the same. The lineup was never the same.
You know what's crazy? In 2014, he hit 95 RBIs.
Is that right? his numbers for that 5-year stretch, I mean, where he's going like 50 and 130 or high 40s and one.
He went in 06, 58 home runs, 149 RBIs. 08, the year they win the World Series, 48 homers, 146 RBIs. And then he backs that up with 45 home runs, 141 RBIs.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Bob, as we're talking about Ryan Howard. I actually brought this up to Ray on Sunday when we were here at the station. If you could have any first baseman from Philadelphia Phillies franchise history, you going Pete Rose, John Kruk, Ryan Howard, or Bryce Harper?
It's a great one. And I remember years ago in the morning show I was hosting one day, and I played the game of, was it Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers? I guess it was Phillies, about do you have the best at that position right now? Like, give me your all-time team. Wow. Ryan Howard during that span was just unbelievable. But do you get more consistently out of Bryce Harper?
What about
And
Rose?
Fielding. It's weird. You know, I was alive when they got Rose and they won that World Series. I was never a Pete Rose fan. He was that guy that everybody labeled, oh, you hate him on the other team, but when he comes to your team, you love him. I still hated him. I swear I hated him. And the only good thing about that was my dad agreed with me. And maybe that's why I had the feeling I did. But I would go with, I think I'd.
It's tough, man.
I think I'd go Ryan Howard or Bryce Harper.
I love Ryan Howard.
But I hear a but.
Bryce, baby.
Bryce, man. Like, and it's tough because we've seen him at first for what? Barely, not even a year at this point. Like, you're trying to play first, but he looks really good at the position. He's already got 10 home runs. Matter of health. But, like, he could hit 40 home runs this year.
I don't know, man. I think you got recency bias. I love Bryce Harper, but to Bob's point, I mean, Ryan Howard, 58 home runs, 149
well, yeah, if I'm getting 2006
RBIs.
Ryan Howard. Listen, if you want the best first baseman season by any Philly ever, yeah, give me that 2006 Ryan Howard. And I'm not fighting with you on that
Yeah.
one.
It's a good one.
There's been a lot of good. It's crazy that John Kruk's not even in the conversation with who they've had at first base. And Krucker, that was a pretty good year in '93.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the two of them, though. I think it's either Howard or Harper. And
Let's see, what was
man.
Krucker's best season?
Take your pick. Kruk was exactly a 300 hitter. This is what's weird. The other night, Whit Merrifield got his 1,200th career hit, right? So I started thinking, Tom McCarthy says to Kruk, do you remember where you got your 1,200th career hit? And Kruk's like, nah, I remember my 1,000th because they showed it on the scoreboard or something like that. So I went to look it up. I knew that Kruk was a 300 hitter. He didn't have 1,200 hits. He had like 1,157 career hits. Whit Merrifield has more career hits than John Kruk. I just found that to be like a little surprising, being that Kruk's a 300 hitter. But so our YouTube audience, you're surprising me here. Is our YouTube audience older than I thought? Because they're bringing in the Fog Bowl. Eagles in Chicago. You guys probably don't remember. It was New Year's Eve. Great day. I remember I was coaching at the time, had the keys to the gym. Me and my buddy Lenny, who texted me earlier. We went in, shot basketball for like an hour and a half, got a great workout, then went over his house and watched the Eagles game, and you couldn't see any of it because the fog rolled in Chicago. Chicago was a few years removed from being that great 85 team, but still a very good team. Eagles had Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan, they land at the airport. They get in the bus. They go by Soldier Field, honking the horns. Like, all this stuff is going on. The game starts. You're so excited. It's New Year's Eve. And you can't see any of it because the fog rolls in. So a lot of people on here, if the fog never rolled in, what would have happened? There's also, if Bryce Pop doesn't have that hit on Randall Cunningham's knee in 1991. Again, pretty far back. I was in the Bahamas when that happened with my future wife. Man, that was horrible, though. But a lot of good ifs. A lot of good ifs that we have going on here. We'll continue it. We have some more texts that we'll get to. I also have an if question specifically when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I want to propose it out there to you and to Bill and to everyone else. 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We are getting so many people chiming in on their if scenario. I know you got a couple of texts, Bill. I got one here. Mike from Delran. If Jimmy Butler stayed, the Sixers win a title. We have my friend Mike. Two things he has. Well, we mentioned Andrew Toney. Another one is back in the 70s for the Phillies, which I remember, but I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't, so I won't bring it up. But there is another thing he brought up. We forgot first baseman Jim Thome. Should he be in the conversation? Loved him when he was here, but no. Sorry, it's between Harper and that quickly I say it. Between Howard and Harper.
A lot of good first basemen, though, in Phillies franchise.
There was. I'm not going to bring up Tommy Hutton being one of them because you just don't know if he was or not, Ray. Also, another if that we got on our YouTube page I thought was great. Which one? Oh, if they had a GM instead of Brett Brown, you wouldn't have traded Mikal Bridges. Oh, that's good. Like that, they made the right pick.
Father Sean said if the Sixers didn't trade Mikal Bridges.
We have a couple of quadruple doinks on here. If that didn't happen, would the Sixers have gone? They would have gone to the NBA Finals. Would they have won an NBA Finals?
Well,
that's a pretty good one.
That game would have gone to overtime, right? The triple doink, they wouldn't have won the game. It would have gone to OT.
Yes, I believe. Or were they up?
Right?
One?
Or were they up? I can't remember now.
No, me neither.
I think it would have just went to overtime.
Yeah, I think it was going to overtime. Is what I think it would have been.
If Bill Belichick didn't cheat, the Eagles would have won Super Bowl 39 back in 04.
So I have a few written down, and I'm not giving them away because I want people to get them. And that's one of the ones I had, is if the Patriots didn't film the Eagles walkthrough before the 2004 Super Bowl, what would it have been like? Because I talked to Barrett Brooks, who we have frequently here on the show.
Great guy.
I had him on a couple years ago on a podcast I was doing, and for whatever reason, it went down this road of the whole Spygate. And that year, he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who played them in the AFC playoffs before the Super Bowl. And he said they were coming to the line, and at times they were coming out before they even knew the play, like before the quarterback even called the play, and they were calling the plays from the other side. He goes, it was ridiculous. And Barrett was getting all worked up, saying he still is angry that the NFL destroyed the tapes so that we will never know exactly what the Patriots had in their possession.
Wow. That's interesting. We have another one on here. Shoot, I just lost it. Triple, quadruple doink we had. The cheating. If the Sixers didn't trade Moses Malone the year after drafting Barkley. Man, I'll tell you, our YouTube audience is going way back today. I have one in my head that I'm surprised somebody hasn't brought up, and it's more recent. If Rob Thompson didn't take out Zach Wheeler.
See, my one for that World Series is if Trey Mancini isn't positioned perfectly to catch that laser from Kyle Schwarber.
That's a pretty good one,
you'd probably go back to Houston up 3-2 instead of down 3-2.
That's not bad. We don't have, besides Lindros, there's not much flyers.
We got on the text line.
The offsides call's got to be up there.
Oh, yeah, Leon Stickle.
If the Flyers drafted Patrick Kane instead of JVR.
Well, they couldn't.
No,
they couldn't. They lost the lottery that year, and Chicago won. The Flyers should have won the lottery. Yeah, the Flyers should have won the lottery that year, and they would have had the first overall pick. Instead, Chicago gets it. They take Patrick Kane. We get stuck with JV. I say stuck. Not like he had a bad career, but Patrick Kane scores the goal in Game 6 at the Wells Fargo Center. Damn it.
Did he? I don't know. I still haven't seen that go in yet.
Yeah, right?
Doesn't make sense.
So here's another one.
All right, go ahead.
This one's been on our YouTube. I had it written down. I got a text from my cousin about it, and it depends on how you want to word it. If Mitch Williams didn't give up the home run to Joe Carter, the way I had it written was if Jim Fregosi doesn't go to Mitch Williams knowing he didn't have his stuff, what happens to the 93 Phillies?
Who was pitching? Was it Madsen? No, not Madsen. Mason. Roger Mason was pitching really well. I believe that's who it was. Was pitching really well. And all the talk had already been that Mitch Williams' arm was pretty much falling off because he had pitched so much that year. But, you can go back and forth with it as much as you want. Do you not do what you did all year long to get there? Do you change in the last game, or do you see it?
I got one more. This one is a really good one on our Twitter because I mentioned if James Bradbury doesn't get called for holding,
right,
And then my dad texted me, well, if Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble, well, this Twitter user, Steve goes back one play farther. If Sayamala doesn't false start, there's no fumble because they're just going with the brotherly shove to get the first down. Do you remember that? Because it was, man, that Super Bowl still stings.
I was going to say, you and Ray get worked up. You got the Super Bowl gets you worked up. Ray just gets worked up in general.
Because, Bob, the 2017 run was great. But the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, I think if they complete that half, if they win Super Bowl 57, we would be talking about that team as being possibly the greatest in franchise history. That team was so dominant all season long, and it was an unbelievable run. You're up 10 at half. Patrick Mahomes limping off after he rolls his ankle again. Damn it, man.
I think I just put a connection between one of my friends and our YouTube page, maybe. So my friend Mike Biazzo, who we've mentioned before, he was the police officer that we called the other day to get clarification on the Scotty Scheffler thing. He sends me a text that says if Cooney was 6'3", he would have been an All-American Pro Bowl basketball player. At the same exact time, Voudrew on our YouTube page said if Bob Cooney was 6'6", he would have made the NBA. I've often asked this question of people that played basketball, like my ilk, and I asked it to Brett Brown, who played Division I. You know, he played at Boston University, I think. Boston College, Boston University, one of them. How tall would you have had to have been with your skill to make it in the NBA?
7'6".
Yeah,
I had like 7'7" for me, for my skill. And, you know, I played basketball a little bit. Like, for my skill, yeah, I would have had to have been that tall. Then I could be a really good passing 7'7" guy who shot a little bit and, you know, whatever.
How tall was Sean Bradley?
7'6".
Yeah, that's
he
about
wore
right.
number 76.
Yeah,
And he was drafted by the 76ers. Yeah. So here's a good one. When we went to the Flyers, because I brought up Flyers and both of your guys' eyes lit up. And, Ray, I think you have some more coming up. But this is a good one. If the Flyers drafted Peter Forsberg instead of trading to draft Eric Lindros, that's not bad.
Well, I believe the Flyers did draft Forsberg, didn't they?
They had to trade all of their to Quebec.
Well, they traded Forsberg in the trade, but the Flyers actually drafted Forsberg and then traded him. So they took him 6 overall in 91. But, yes, they did trade Forsberg. They traded everybody to get Lindros. If you go back and look, the reason why the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup was because when they were the Quebec Nordiques, Flyers traded him everybody, man. They built that team through the Lindros trade.
Yeah, that was that was wild times. Ray, do we have some more ifs before we carry on to a new subject? But it is going to be an if subject that I'm also going to bring up to you.
We have so many ifs here, so I'll roll through a number of them. Starting with, if Carson Wentz never gets hurt, would we win the Super Bowl, and would he still be our starting quarterback?
I got to say no. I don't think the downfall, well, I shouldn't say that, because watching Carson Wentz before that knee got hurt, my God, what a different quarterback he was. It's a great question. How many years would he be in the league right now about? They drafted him in 17?
Drafted him 16, leading into 16, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on the Chiefs now, you know.
Is that where he is?
Yeah, he's going to be their backup quarterback in Kansas City.
Backup, or backup? Is he their second stringer, you think, or third?
You know, who else do they have on their roster?
Yeah.
Let me see.
What else we got, Ray?
If AI got any legitimate help, does he win a title?
Say that again, if what?
AI got any legitimate help?
Oh, AI. I don't know. Is this the same question we're going to be asking about Joel Embiid in 10 years? And is it because of them, not because of who was with them? You know what I mean? Like, Allen Iverson was a tough guy to play with, a tough guy to build a team around. They probably did the best they could do in that 01 season in getting a team full of complementary players in order for him to shine the way he did offensively and do what he did. It's a great question. I don't know. And it also then leans to the question of how come they could never surround Joel Embiid with players to win a title when they've tried so many different things?
And to answer your question, Wentz will be the backup because the other names on this depth chart, I can't imagine that they're going to be the backup to Mahomes. So.
Okay. All right, what else we got, Ray? A couple more ifs?
Yeah, a couple more Eagles ones for sure. If we had a real offensive coordinator with Cunningham, or if we had a Laurie-type owner for the Reggie White-era defenses.
That was so frustrating. You were talking about a defense that was 1-1-1. Number one against the pass, number one against the rush, number one overall. And you had an offense where they gave Randall Cunningham a playbook. They put $100 bills in it, and when he handed it back, the $100 bills were still in there. He never looked at the playbook. Buddy Ryan was the type of coach who just said, yeah, go make plays, number 12. That's all I need you to do. Defense wins games. That's a good one. That's a real good one. And I just wanted to give that background for people that might not have been there. All right, you got another one?
Yeah. If T.O. and McNabb got along.
You could also take that higher up if Jeffrey Lurie would have paid him. And I guess it was Joe Banner. You know, I understood the times and all, but, man, you got to a Super Bowl. Like, you had a receiver that likes you never had here before. And then he was doing sit-ups in his driveway.
Well, especially because you go back to not only what T.O. did that season from a stats perspective, the guy literally played the Super Bowl on a broken leg. They made him sign something that he would play, even though the doctors were saying he shouldn't play. And Donovan, the reason him and Donovan didn't get along is because he wanted McNabb to kind of go to bat for him a little bit more to get him to stay. But that is a big if in Philadelphia Eagles history for sure.
That is pretty good. You got one more?
Yeah, we'll end on a positive note here.
Okay, that's
we
good.
appreciate this first-time texter reminding us there is some positive what-ifs. If the Phillies did trade Rick Wise for Steve Carlson.
That's
Phillies.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Football on the brain.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's a great one.
So one of the ones I brought up before, too, was you look at Chip Kelly's era here, and obviously he's back in the news after Trey Turner, after Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy went on their podcast. But I've asked this before. If Chip Kelly doesn't completely decimate the Eagles in the 2015 season, do they build it back the way they did to win the Super Bowl 2 years later?
Wow.
Because you wouldn't
Look
have
at that
had
talent he got rid of.
Because as much as it was frustrating that he got rid of LaShawn, he got rid of Deshaun Jackson, he did some crazy things to that team, that almost allowed them to go out there, and Howie Roseman built the team back in 2 seasons, and then they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we have the Super Bowl if Chip Kelly never does what he did?
Oh, God, I hated when they got rid of LaShawn McCoy. Hated it.
And he also got rid of Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Like, you look at what some of the stuff Chip Kelly did. They lost Jeremy Maclin in free agency. We now know Maclin wasn't coming back. He hated him. They trade LaShawn McCoy. They trade Nick Foles. They cut Deshaun Jackson. They released Todd Herremans, Trent Cole, Evan Mathis, Kyrie Williams. He signs Byron Maxwell, DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews. I mean, he made some horrible decisions. Put Howie Roseman in a storage closet.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
2 years later, Jason Kelsey's given his memorable speech.
That's right. All right, when we get back, I still have an if question, and it's off of this. It's not this subject particularly. It's specifically about the Philadelphia Eagles this coming season. It's about the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to ask it to you guys. You can respond to it, 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back as we approach the 1 o'clock hour here on Middays. We got Bill Colarulo with us all day long. The terrific, the energetic, the unstoppable Ray Dunn producing today. What a weekend he had. The normal human being, Bill, I don't think he could make it through the weekend that Ray had.
Yeah,
not a normal human being.
And he's not a normal human being.
No, he's just extra, I don't know.
In a good way.
In a great way.
Not only he does this, we heard him do play-by-play for the Union. He crushed that. He's good at everything he does, Ray Dunn.
He is. I might even up it to great. He's great at everything he does. So he can be a mentor to the young people, which he was this past weekend, to a bunch of 18-year-olds. He goes out, he speaks to Temple students often, and some youth group. Don't you go like somewhere, talk to some
Boys and Girls Club.
The girls club?
Boys
Like,
and Girls Club.
the guy's unbelievable. When I grow up, there it is. I want to be Ray Dunn.
You don't want to
because
say
I got
that.
so old this weekend? Did I just pass you an age this weekend with the way I acted?
I thought we talked about this.
Oh, he can make a joke about you being on the beat for the 1895 Phillies
All right.
team, and you just washed that one away.
There's
but
a guest.
That's because
You-
I have a bald spot, so I get away with it.
Yeah, that's the last warning I'm giving you, Ray. Okay? After that, all the niceness that you professed earlier in this show, it's out the window. You'll
Yeah.
be dead to me.
Oh, wow, that escalated quickly.
Yes, it did. Jamie in Reading wants to talk about the if. Jamie, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, guys. What if Jerome Brown would have not passed away? What do you think the Eagles would have been?
Oh,
And
yeah.
what if-
Unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about a defensive line that already included Clyde Simmons and Reggie White and linebackers that were out the window. That was a great defense.
And what about if we would have drafted Mike Piazza? I mean, I know we had Lieberthal and Dolphin, but I guess Piazza was kind of in between those guys in age. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe. He went like the sixth. Thanks, Jamie. He went like the 64th round, I think. So there was a lot of teams that missed out on him. We could say, why didn't the Eagles? What if the Eagles would have drafted Tom Brady? There's a lot of ifs you can go on
Phoenix
drafts.
Phil's own, though. You should have known.
Tommy Lasorda was his godfather.
Yeah, that was the only reason they drafted him, right?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. Because
That's the
Lasorda's a
story.
Norristown guy. Piaz is a Phoenixville guy. All comes back to Montgomery County, the 610 out there.
Yep, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's
right
all
there.
about out
I
there.
just had one in my head, and it just left real quick.
The 610 out there and the 610 here. 610-632.
That's right,
0975.
610. So the if question that I wanted to throw out there to all of you and to Bill is this, and it concerns the Eagles' defense. If the Eagles don't do this defensively, Bill, they're going to struggle to be a top-tier team. What is this in your mind? And it's got to be specific.
Okay, if you want a specific one, if the Eagles' defense is not in the top 10 in sacks, I don't think they will have a solid defense this year. You go back to 22, led the league in sacks. I'm not expecting 70 sacks again. But then you look at last year, and they were 19th in sacks. I think if this team can be in the top 10 in sacks, that means a lot of things. That means that Bryce Huff is probably who you thought he was. It means Nolan Smith is probably who you thought he was when you drafted him. And then what that does is it has a ripple effect throughout the defense. Your secondary will play better if you're getting a lot of sacks and pressure on the quarterback. So for me, that's if you want something specific, let's be top 10. I'm going to go even higher. Top 5 in sacks. If they're not top 5 in sacks, I don't think they're going to have a great defense.
All right, I have one, Ray, before I go to you. When it comes to the defense, what is your if? To me, if the Eagles' defense doesn't have more takeaways than the offense has turnovers, I think we might be disappointed in this season.
That's a really good one, Bob. Because, again, comparing the Super Bowl season in 22 to 23, they were +8 turnover differential the year they go to the Super Bowl. They were -10 last season.
Yeah, I mean, that was just it's so bad to look at. That's such a difference maker, and the fact that your quarterback was responsible for 20 turnovers last year, like that just can't happen. And I need to see some takeaways by this defense because I told you before, I am really nervous about this defense, and I think this defense. The reason I brought this question up, I think they can put a major clog into this being a 13 win team if they don't do some of these things. Ray, what about you? What do you got for an if on this Eagles defense?
I'm going to change the wording around a little bit and go,
Okay.
If we're not talking about the young talent on this defense, it's not going to be pretty. We need at some point in the season to be looking at ourselves. The way we talked earlier in this show about, Maxey, Bohm, Devontae Smith, some of the young talent in this city. If we're not sitting here like week 7 or 8, like, wow, you've gotten some contributions from some second-year guys, from one of these third-year guys that we're starting to see them come around. The Davis, the Carter, Smith, start looking at that secondary. Mitchell, DeJean, like you start looking at those guys. We're not talking about, some of these young guys they drafted have really shown the promise that we were excited for. We're in a lot of trouble.
Not bad. Yeah, I'm still, and even as closer as we get to, when they're going to get together and start some of their OTAs and all of that stuff, there has been nothing yet that has made me feel real comfortable with this defense. There just isn't. And I know there's a lot of things we have to look out for, but I'm just not there yet.
And that's today, though, Bob. OTAs.
Oh, are they today?
Yep, they start today. So
I thought it was tomorrow.
You have 10 possible OTA practices that you could do. Eagles are doing 6 of them. So today, and then the 22nd, the 23rd, the 28th, the 30th, and the 31st.
Okay. 6 out of 10. Okay. That's what they so choose to do. We didn't question it before they went to the Super Bowl, so I guess we can't do it now. Hey, the 12 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. All right, when we get back, I think I know what the popular answer to my next question about the Phillies is going to be. So I'm going to take the popular answer away. And I think we may have many other answers as far as this Philadelphia Phillies team goes. What am I talking about? I'll let you know when we get back. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. 1 o'clock here on Middays. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate you a whole lot. Want to let you know the 1 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. All right, we played the fun if game, and we had a whole bunch of them, and we appreciate you chiming in on that. I just posed a question to Bill and to Ray about if the Eagles defense doesn't do this, then maybe something will happen. And Terrell wanted to chime in about the offense for your Philadelphia Eagles. Terrell, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
How's everybody doing today?
Great. How about you?
I'm all right. I want to say, like, if Sirianni doesn't stay away and let Kellen Moore do his thing, I think we can also do some things. Like, I think Sirianni needs to butt out.
So what? Why? What? Like Terrell? What reasoning has he given you?
I think we need to have a flow, and I think sometimes Sirianni can mess up a flow.
Okay.
Like, sometimes, it's like playing chess. Like, somebody gets in your head, in your way and playing chess. Like, you might be thinking 3 moves ahead and setting them up for a knockout or whatever. And here comes Sirianni with, oh, yeah, I need you to do this draw, or I need you to do this screen, or,
Oh, we lost you there, Terrell. Thanks. Appreciate it. I always look for reasoning, right? Bill, I don't know if Nick Sirianni did that a lot. I don't know if he went up to Brian Johnson and was like, whoa. Nah, don't do that. Let's not forget to incorporate this, that, and the other. Is it well within his right as head coach? Damn straight it is. Like, I think it is. As much as you want to, give your offensive coordinator the keys and say, go have at it. But it's your job as head coach if you see something. Is there evidence that he does that Nick Sirianni does, for lack of a better term, interfere?
Not during the game, and I think that may have been some people's complaints last season, is that he should have done that at times with the way the play calling was. But this is a debate we've had on this station. In fact, I had to call the morning show last week to defend Nick Sirianni about this because I said I do want him involved in the offense. Not over the top, not overreaching. I don't want him to tell Kellen Moore when to call certain plays. But to say you don't want him involved at all, to me, just doesn't make sense when you look at Nick Sirianni's 3 years here, where he has been involved in the offense. They've had a lot of success. Jalen Hurts has had a lot of success. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The entire offense has had a lot of success. Yes, it needs to be better. Yes, I'm happy that Kellen Moore is going to have a majority of the control. But to not include Nick Sirianni at all, to me, it just doesn't make sense, man. I mean, he's had a front row seat to these guys, some of them for 3 seasons. For him not to tell Kellen Moore, this is what they do well. These are the plays that have worked effectively over the years. This play didn't really work last year because defenses have adjusted. To me, the over-the-top hate towards Sirianni, I think it's overblown, man.
Is it over-the-top hate?
I think
you think this city has it, huh?
Well, I think what happens is last season went ugly. No doubt about it. It went ugly. And we feel a lot better as a fan base if you could put your finger on one thing and say, hey, you know what? The reason why they collapsed down the stretch, it was Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's the clown. Well, that's not the reason they collapsed. There are a million reasons why they collapsed down the stretch. There's not just one reason that it happened. And I think a lot of fans just look to Sirianni and they look at his sideline antics, which rubs people the wrong way. And they're the ones that he's the one that they're going to blame.
Look, I having been around, some teams in professional sports, for people to think that there's a lack of communication in a lot of places or that there isn't, like Kellen Moore should have this offense and Nick Sirianni doesn't say a thing. That doesn't really happen. I mean, at least teams that I've been around an awful lot, everybody communicates. I remember one time being on a, I don't want to out anybody here. So I was covering the Sixers, and there was a question by someone in the city about Brett Brown and Sam Hinkie at the time. They don't even talk to each other. Like, they don't communicate. And I was on the beat. I was there every day, and I'm like, there's not a practice that I walk into. There's not a time when I'm walking down the street when Sam Hinkie would travel with the team that him and Brett Brown weren't sitting together talking. I don't, I was just like, where does that come from? communication is all over the place. I mean, just think about this show. Like, the three of us in the morning for an hour and a half, 2 hours before this show starts, sit and talk about what we might be talking about here today. Like, that's just this show. You think a major professional sports team, a coach isn't talking to a coordinator isn't talking to a GM isn't talking. Like, there's communication everywhere.
But, like, look, I'm looking at our YouTube audience. Voodrew. If you have a reputation for bad practices, how can you have a good coach? Well, if he's referring to, like, actual practices, I've heard nothing but that Nick Sirianni runs a very effective practice. So I don't know what – see, this is the things that get thrown out there is you listen to Jason Kelsey talk about Sirianni. One of the things they say he does very well is holding the players accountable in how organized he is and how effective and efficient their practices are. So now, he's – their practices stink. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the beats that I talk to that have been – and I've been down the – have I hit a couple of Sirianni's practices? I guess I have. Very short and to the point. And as the beats that are there every day say, he has no problem getting in players' faces like, you're wrong. What are you doing? This is the third time I've told you. Like, he's very vocal that way. Yes, his practices are short, and they cover a lot of ground, and they're to the point. That's the way he's so chosen. I've known a lot of coaches that have been that way. I've known other coaches that'll go 3-4 hour practices.
Yeah.
It's what's best suited for your team, I think.
Yeah, and this is what always bothers me with the over-the-top Sirianni stuff is I do agree. This is a make-it-or-break-it year for Nick Sirianni. He has to have a good season. Where I have defended him is he deserved to come back. And what bothers me is the recency bias that we have, is now we look at 2023 and the light practices were an issue. But then you go back to 2022 when they had all of their starters in the Super Bowl and fans are touting Nick Sirianni as a genius. Oh, man, so smart of him to keep his players healthy. And then in 2023 when they're not playing well, which to me, yeah, practices may have had something to do with it, but it was also personnel. I think the defense stunk. Voudrew's talking about, well, they couldn't tackle. Well, if you're a professional athlete in the NFL and you don't know how to tackle, I don't see how practicing is going to help you. If you're not, that is a will, that is a desire where your players have to figure out, do we want to tackle this guy? By that point, you learn how to tackle in peewee football, man. So I'm not buying the fact that it was Nick Sirianni's problem that they couldn't tackle last year. To me, that was personnel related.
Yeah, I agree with you at the point of once you get to that level, you should be able to tackle angles, different things like that, or scheme. That's on a coach, but I agree with you on that. What worries me, I'll say, about Nick Sirianni is that he was touted, and rightfully so, as being a guy that can really relate to his players, right? And the players talked about it glowingly. In his first year and in his second year when they went to the Super Bowl, it couldn't be said enough. That seemed to be the strongest point of Nick Sirianni. And that wasn't good last year. Apparently, the locker room, there was disconnection, all of that. Well, when his strongest point in just his third year started to fray a little bit, it's just what concerns me.
Yeah, and I think that's why I describe this as a make-it-or-break-it year, because you're spot on with everything we thought Sirianni did well, the culture guy, the vibes guy.
Right.
You didn't see last year. When things started to go south, he couldn't stop the bleed. So that's why I think this season I'm giving him a second chance, because I've gone over this before as to all of the things he was dealing with last year. You were asking him to do something that hasn't been done before. No Super Bowl coach has ever lost both of their coordinators. Only 6 coaches in history have ever lost a Super Bowl, got back. There were a lot of factors there. And when you compounded that with not only new coordinators, but a severe lack of personnel on the defensive side of the football, when you have all of those factors going into it, well, you're not going to have a very good football team. But I do agree the culture was off last year. And we can't see that this season. That's why I consider, as much as I've defended him, I think he should have come back. I think they made the right decision. If they struggle this season and it looks bad like it did last year, Sirianni's not your coach in 2025.
All right, Ray, as our chief, what are you, chief vibes officer?
CVO.
CVO?
Yeah.
As that, did Nick Sirianni, was that the biggest question mark for you surrounding Nick Sirianni after last year, or was it something else?
Lack of answers to what was happening. And things spiraled out of control, and you could say culture, all those wonderful things, or terrible things, I guess, in the way that it goes. But just the lack of answers for anything over that stretch. We talked about how, wow, that team found a way to win again, It was a group that I imagine behind the scenes you wanted to look a little bit prettier, so they were probably already searching for answers prior to them collapsing. The fact that there was just nothing. And we could talk about the historic ramifications of what we were asking him to do, but there's also the historic ramifications of what they did down the stretch. You started 10-1 and did not get to 12 victories. You ended up getting blown out by Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers in the postseason. That, to me, when you look at the way things went, yes, culture had to be a question mark, but the lack of answers, whoever made the decision with the defense to go from Desai to Patricia and caused all the chaos in there, and as much as I want to be upset with Sirianni, and even though Sirianni has taken the blame for that one, I still don't think it was just Sirianni that was the one that made that decision about the defense, which brings up bigger questions about other people. But, hey, they had a good offseason. I like their offseason, so I'm not going to start with those questions just quite yet. But I think, to me, it was more than just culture. You look at it, you say, okay, where were the answers on the field? Where were the answers for your players? Why was there so much of a disconnect of, okay, whose offense is it? Who am I actually getting the offense from? Why are we – we clearly saw there was a question of whose defense was it. Patricia's running Desai's defense. Okay, they're trying to change things. Hassan Reddick's sitting there, and he said it. We've got to learn two different things. It feels like we've changed everything. There's a lot that went into that beyond just culture problems, where it was actually on-field football stuff that led to you going from 10-1 to a team that, again, you were talking about them not as if they were 11-6. These are not conversations about a team that went 11-6 because of how ugly the ending was and how ugly the on-the-field product was, even after you got out of your so-called gauntlet of a schedule, part of the schedule.
It's scary that when things don't go well, the head coach can't come up with a solution with the talent that they had. But it could have been a myriad of things that, we don't know about, a combination of asking players to do something and the players couldn't do it, or you're asking them to do the wrong thing. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on here. I did tease out there for this segment that I wanted to ask you a Phillies question. We'll get to it, but we got some people that still want to talk Eagles, so we'll stick with that. Noah in media, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Noah?
Hey, guys. Bob, I've loved reading you for a long time, and I love listening to you.
Thanks, buddy.
Nick Sirianni is the CEO of the team. As a coach, he has to make sure things are put in place. With the talent that's on our team, I don't understand why things fell apart so bad. And I played hockey, so I don't understand all the nuances of a football team. Obviously, it's much larger, but it didn't go well. So, doesn't that go up to Sirianni?
Yeah, and that's part of the stuff we're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. When things needed to be fixed, who's the person that you look to fix? It's your CEO, it's your head coach, it's your manager. That's what I was wondering about. Like, if he had this team on his side, if he was a coach of the players, why didn't we see more of it? Yeah, it's fair enough.
So, but what do you think is going to happen with this season?
So, Noah, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Look, I point to one thing for this season, that if they don't perform at least admirably. Is that fair, Bill? If the defense doesn't perform at least admirably, I don't think the Eagles are going to reach the lofty heights of 13, 14, maybe not even 12 wins.
Yeah, and to Noah's point about, well, how come they didn't succeed with all this talent? I would agree with that. Last year, when you looked at the offense, they had a ton of talent. They did not have a ton of talent on defense. They didn't have a linebacker. Their secondary did fall apart because they kept rolling out James Bradbury, who wasn't the same player he was in 2022. You didn't have Darius Slay for a long period of time. Avonte Maddox was hurt. Zach McPherson was hurt. Reed Blankenship was in and out of the lineup. You had a safety named Terrell Edmonds that you ended up trading for Kevin Byard. Their defense was not talented last year. It didn't matter who the coach was. The defense was going to be terrible. And if they're not better this season, I agree with you. Not only are they not going to probably get to that 12-13 wins, but I've said this before on the air. You look at all of the times the Eagles have been to the NFC Championship game, they've had a top 8 defense in terms of points against. So if this defense isn't better, it makes it very unlikely, no matter how good the offense is, very unlikely that they get to where we want them to be, which is back in the NFC Championship.
In 2022, could it have been that you had so many players? I've asked this question kind of before. I don't think I've asked it of you, Bill. Could it have been that you had so many players that had career years all at once, and it kind of masked some things maybe? Like they got rid of T.J. Edwards, which turned out to kind of be a mistake. But let's go through that defense and think about it. Hargrave had a career year. Hassan Reddick, another year. You might call it a career year. He had a really, really good year. Brandon Graham had the most sacks he's ever had. Could have been a career year. T.J. Edwards was great.
Josh Sweat was good.
Josh Sweat, probably a career. They had 70 sacks. That was a career year for. Then you go to the back end. Slay and Bradbury may have had their 2 best seasons ever.
Yeah, Bradbury was an all-pro.
Exactly. And then you go to C.J. G.J. Well, they brought him in here and just threw him to safety. And when they did that, I said, look, everybody's getting excited about this guy going to safety. He hasn't played it much before, but went back there, became a playmaker, interceptions. You had a almost cursed boatload of guys on that defensive side of the ball that had career years.
Yeah, and you also had, in addition to T.J. Edwards, you had Marcus Epps at safety. Those were 2 guys that it really bothered me that the Eagles let them walk because they were homegrown talents here. They were guys that you developed who grew into being very good starters, and you went into the season saying, we're okay letting both of our linebackers go, Kazir White and T.J. Edwards, and both of our safeties walk in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Marcus Epps. That's a tough void to fill. You're talking every starter you had at linebacker and safety, you let walk out the door. So, to your point, yes, guys had career years, but you also just let too many of them walk out the door. Hargrave, I understood. 49ers paid him a ton of money. You weren't going to be able to match that, and you tried to replace him with a Jalen Carter. But to let both your linebackers and both your safeties walk, that was a mistake.
All right, Ray, going back to the subject that we had before, you say we have a great what if. Did somebody text it in, tweet it in?
Somebody texted it in. This is
you're already laughing.
Fantastic one from Dan in Fort Washington. If Nick Foles doesn't think of Philly, or Doug Peterson doesn't agree with him, do they turn it over on 4th down and have the momentum swing the other way?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know, I've often said, Bill, not with you, but I've said it throughout the years. I think Doug Peterson's a 500 coach. I said it after they won the Super Bowl. I was like, yeah, it was a great year. They caught lightning in a bottle, all of that. I still go back and forth. I guess I have to give him the goodness for having a player come over and suggest a play and him agreeing with it because it worked. If that didn't work, do people look at Doug Peterson and be like, dude, what the hell? You got a player calling a play for you?
Of course. Not only that, the play itself, too, if it doesn't work, people can be like, why are you calling a trick play on 4th down? But even if they score there, let's say that he says no to Nick Foles and they end up running a play that's just a standard play. It's certainly not as memorable. That's why, I mean, the Philly special, we will remember forever.
Yeah, no question. I mean, there's tattoos around the city. There's obviously shirts and all that. Tsunami Webster on our YouTube page. Philly fans are considered stupid. Nick, 3 years, 3 playoffs, 1 Super Bowl appearance, but he's a bad coach. That's a little too broad, but it's a good point.
I'm with Tsunami Webster. And I've said it. Not only that, you look at some of the individual accomplishments that players on the offense have had with Sirianni involved. A.J. Brown sits at number 1 and number 2 in franchise history for receiving yards in a season. I mean, come on. If Nick Sirianni was a clown and he was clueless, this stuff wouldn't be happening. And I know people say, oh, it's all about talent. It's all about talent. There are a lot of coaches in this league who have not had the same success Sirianni has had with more talent than the Eagles.
All right, I teased it before our last segment, before this segment, about a question I had for you for the Phillies. I'll give it to you now. I'm going to take Bryce Harper out of the equation. Who is the player that makes this Phillies team go? Who's your go guy on this Phillies team? Now we got to take away Bryce Harper. Who's your identity of this Phillies team right now? I'm going to take away Bryce Harper because I think that'll be 85, 90% of the answer. Who's the next guy that you think makes this Phillies team go? 610-632-0975. That is the question out there when we get back. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. 1:30 here at the Fanatic. So glad you're joining us. Hope you're having a great Monday as it leads into a lot of talk today around the office. Oh, are you working on Friday? Are you off on Monday? Are you working here? Are you working there? It's a great time of the year where people get some little vacation time in, a little R&R. As you know, you only have this. The way it works for us, it's hard for any of us to take off during, obviously Sixers, Phillies, or not Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, Eagles. Yeah, Phillies playoffs. We can't. So the only time you really get to take off is like the summertime, the dog days of summer.
Yeah, and the best part of all of you taking all that time off is the listeners get more me and Ray done.
They are overly excited. Not that we're going anywhere anytime soon. I'm not off until like the end of the week and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll be back pretty quick, right?
No.
Only a few days.
No, I know how to take my long weekends, Ray. Yeah, I'll teach you how to do it. Yeah, I am off on Friday and I am off Tuesday. I think we're off as a show. Oh wait, is somebody in on?
I'm being for you on Monday and Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
So me and Ray will be here Monday, Tuesday next week.
So once I leave on Thursday, you won't hear from me until Tuesday, and that probably picks up the spirits, or Wednesday rather. Yeah, I'm sure that picks up the spirits of many people listening right now.
Not true.
As I say, always something to look forward to. That might be what it was. All right, what I put out there now, the question of this last half hour of the show. I think Bryce Harper probably is going to be the answer to most people's. By most people, when I ask the question of what player makes this Phillies team go. So I'm going to take Bryce Harper out of it. And I already got an answer from my friend Joe Merton. I'm going to hold on to that onto my phone. But, Bill, I'll ask you. Ray, I'm going to ask you before we get to you, Jay. Who's the player that makes this Phillies team go, in your eyes, either after Bryce Harper or maybe you have him even before Bryce Harper?
Now, I think my answer would be Bryce, but if we're taking him off the table, somebody's got to catch all this good pitching, Bob. So I'm going JT Realmuto.
I like that answer. He's also the guy that I have labeled that if I was a player on that Phillies team, he'd probably be the one I look up to most. I like the way he works. I like the toughness. I like the no BS attitude. You don't get a lot of highs and lows. It's just put your head down, go to work. That's the guy I would probably look up to the most. Ray, who's yours? Guy that you look at on the Phillies besides Bryce Harper that you think just makes the team go?
In 2024, right now, it's got to be Bohm. I mean, leading the league in doubles, leading the league in runs batted in, OPS north of 900. You're looking at a guy that, again, something I thought was a hole with this team was the right-handed bat behind Bryce Harper. And he is slotted in there perfectly. He's been the pop, especially from the right side when Turner was down. You didn't have Realmuto for a couple days there. Castellanos has not been what you wanted so far this season. He's been consistent, been right there for you. I think he's played 47 of the 48 games. If you need to flip him over to first base because Harper needs a day off, you can flip him over to first base. He's become someone that actually has flexibility in positions where you trust him, and he's become a solid third baseman. So that would be the one right now that I think is making this team go.
All right. Now, Jay on the cell, we're going to come to you now. I don't know what you're waiting for, but let's find out. Jay, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Look, I'm waiting on until we get come across the second half of the schedule. They played one winning team, and they 1-2, and almost got swept there. So I'm waiting on the second half when we play some good teams.
So you're missing out on them playing some pretty good baseball right now. Like, you don't care that they're 34-14, best record in baseball. National pundits calling them the best team in baseball. That doesn't matter.
It's not October. We'll see what happens there.
But Jay, you're missing a whole season. Like,
no, I'm watching the season. That's how I know that they didn't play anybody good yet. They played all AAA teams.
So you don't think this is a good Phillies team?
Yeah, they okay. They not running around everybody talking about they better than the 08 team and more likable and all that stuff this week. All this nonsense I'm hearing. And they didn't win. They was up in the last two closeout series, they was up in both series and they lost. Now they telling me all this 27 out stuff and all that. Where was this at when they played the Diamondbacks last year?
It doesn't sound like you're happy, Jay.
No, I'm cool. I just want to see how they. Hey, look, I'm just waiting to the last couple seasons and teams had, collapses so-called and everything. So we'll see once the playoffs come.
All right. Okay.
Look, I want to see, Bob, can you tell me what this Sixers organization is going to do to help Joel Embiid? Looking at these playoffs, they need help. Like, everybody's screaming back the All-Star, and you need 5, 6 guys and everything. They running out young players, and we had Lowry and Batum start.
It's something, and Jay, appreciate the call as always. Always love talking to you. You want me to tell you what they can do or what they should do? I don't know that they know what they can and should do. I went over a list of 18 names the other day that they've tried to bring in to surround Joel Embiid, and it hasn't worked. I don't know. Yeah, I look at these other teams, and I see, depth. I see a guy that you used to have that would have been great for you coming off the bench this year in a TJ McConnell. And look, please don't take it like, oh, they need TJ McConnell to get over the top. I'm saying a player like that, somebody that could have come off with the second unit and really had them going well. There's a myriad of things out there.
There is. I saw a crazy stat this morning on Twitter from SpotRack. Only one of the top 15 paid NBA players from the 23-24 season has made the Final Four. And it's Rudy Gobert. And he's the 13th highest paid. Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Jokic, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, the Greek Freak, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, Fred VanVleet, and Anthony Davis. None of them made the Final Four. And that's your top 15 paid players. Rudy Gobert's the only one.
What's it tell you? And Rudy Gobert's a specialist. He's a specialist in that he's a defender. And I don't think I've seen an NBA player look more awkward trying to play at the offensive end of the floor than Rudy Gobert at times. Ray, what's that say to you? That the top 15, out of 15 top paid players, only one of them is in the Final Four.
Tells me these teams have been pretty good at finding talent to put around their guys. I mean, that to me is what sticks out about this group. They've also had some of these teams have been solid in finding guys draft-wise. Some of these teams have just also been bad enough to be at the top of the draft to be able to reload. Like some of these superstars have had really bad seasons. It's funny. I was looking at these groups. I was like, with Embiid, they've been able to keep themselves so much in contention. They haven't bottomed out to that season where, oh, yeah, you could go draft in Anthony Edwards. Or, you bottom out in a season and I think the Mavericks were low. They get lively, I think, with that pick. You haven't really been back into the lottery. You were able to identify Maxey and get Maxey, but where else have you been able to identify and keep a core intact of young players to keep you going? That's been an issue, I think, with them over the last couple seasons.
So one of the comments under this post was talking about how a lot of these guys were completely injured or hobbled in the playoffs, and that unfortunately, the NBA is not allowing players to get proper rest anymore. What do you think? I mean, we've seen it before recently. 82 games, the Stars were fine. Do you think 82 games is too many games for these guys?
I think every sport is too many games, in all honesty. As much as I love watching them, I think baseball should be dialed back to like 125. 162 is just
it's too much.
Such
it's
a grind.
Too much.
I think football, you're telling players to don't hit the quarterback. You're telling them this and that, but you're throwing them out there on Sundays and Thursdays.
16 was perfect.
16 was fine.
Never should have made it 17. Now they're going to make it 18. Yeah, I liked 16.
I liked 16. When I was a little kid, it was 14. I understand the money and all that stuff, but when do you start caring about the player? I think 82 for both hockey and basketball should be cut back to like 65. I mean, if you're going to implement that rule, look, it's never going to be done. We have to preface this with it's never going to be done. They're not going to cut games and say, yeah, we're just going to take that loss in money. It's not going to happen. But if you wanted ideal situations, I don't like, and the morning show was talking about it this morning a little bit about the load management stuff. Well, if you're concerned about that and you're taking away awards with guys sitting out, all of that, I assume you want the best product when we're talking about the NBA. You just had the Indiana Pacers finish a series on Sunday, which was one of the most grueling series now, 7-game series are always going to be grueling. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were banging each other. They have to turn around and on Tuesday night go play the Boston Celtics. Two ways of looking at it. Well, whoever came out of that Indiana-New York series was probably playing pretty good basketball. I think Indiana is doing that. They might want to get right back at it. But, man, couldn't you use, like, more than 1 day rest? You know what I mean? Like, that's – so there's ins and outs to all of it. I don't know how you feel about schedules as far as sports, but I just laid out I think all four could be cut back a little bit. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've said this before about the NBA. What bothers me is that because the season's too long, regular season games have become meaningless, so much so that the NBA tried to implement the NBA Cup to make us care about regular season games. Like, the fact that you have to do that is evidence enough the season's too long. And that's my fear for the NFL. I don't want to see the NFL fall into that trap because the beautiful part of the NFL is the regular season games all matter. Baseball, too long. Hockey, too long. Hockey, all you got to do is just be in the top 8. Doesn't matter. We've seen 8 seeds go on runs. Too long of a season, but it's not going to change. Like you said, it's about money. It's about TV dollars. Not going to change. And that's why when we were playing the what ifs, when somebody said, well, what if the fog didn't happen in Chicago for that Eagles game?
Right.
No way the NFL would have allowed that game to get played if you couldn't see it on TV. You couldn't watch it on television.
You couldn't. You couldn't see a thing, and it rolled in early. I wonder what would happen in these days.
They would delay the game. They would have had to have delayed the game.
Can you?
You couldn't.
I never thought of it, so that's why I'm asking
because you couldn't have.
So it started in bright sunshine.
It did, and then the fog set in, I guess, so you couldn't have. Wait, and now I'm remembering, too. Wasn't there a fog game with the Flyers where they had to hit a bat out of midair?
Yeah, against the Buffalo Sabres in 75 when they won their second cup.
Yeah, could they have delayed the game because of the fog? I think you would have to. They could not play. I mean, from my understanding, and I don't remember it personally because I was too young, but you literally couldn't see 2 feet in front of your face.
Not a thing. Couldn't see across the sidelines. Players couldn't see their coaches on the sidelines if they were changing plays or hand signals or anything like that. Nothing. I mean, it was one of the craziest sports things I've ever seen in my life, and it was something that I didn't see.
Crazier than a golfer being charged with assault of a police officer and making his tee time an hour later?
Yeah, that was a little bit crazy too, but I guess it's because it had personal. The Eagles game had personal effects to it, is why. I'm anxious to see. Tomorrow is the arraignment for Scotty Scheffler. I said to you guys, and look, this is just an outsider, not even looking in, just a stupid observation. When I saw that press release on Friday that entailed the detective's name, and we hope he's okay. We know he hurt his wrist and had a scrape or something on his knee. But when it included that his $80 pants, Bill, were irreparable. In the police statement, I think there may have been a little somebody making fun of somebody there.
Possible.
I'm just throwing that out there. I wonder if everything will get dropped. Like I said, the horrible thing is, preceding this, there was an accident in which somebody lost their life. That is horrible. I don't like that this Detective Gillis got hurt, whatever. But the fact that the police statement said in it that his that his pants, valued at $80, were irreparable, to me that screamed of, is somebody making fun of this guy? I don't know. I don't know.
The craziest thing is, I know we're up against it, but lawyers will be able to argue, and I'm sure they'll be able to get Scheffler. He's going to be fine. I think they'll throw out the case. It sounds like it was a big misunderstanding. But you can't – he was charged with it. So once he's charged with it, the fact that he was able to get out and get to his tee time within an hour, that's the crazy thing. We could all argue it was a ridiculous charge, the cop overreacted, whatever you want to say.
He was charged with a felony.
Yes, that's an argument you have in court. I'm an attorney. That's an argument I would have had in court to get the case dismissed. But he was charged. And the fact that you got him in and out within an hour is crazy.
And so you had an officer giving him a sandwich. He said, I love Scheffler. Goes, I actually had to start warming up. He goes, I don't think I ever envisioned myself warming up for a tea time inside of a jail cell. So crazy story. Again, we know the serious of things, so we're not making fun of that. Mopar, why are you on me again? We have to have a get-together, Mopar. When we get back, we're going to close this thing out, get your thoughts, some final thoughts on what the day was before the best show ever with Tyrone and a rested Ricky, somewhat, coming up next. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back as we clean up the rest of the show before we hand off to the best show ever with Tyrone and Ricky and Silvana hanging out with you. I put the question out there, and I didn't give my answer. Who's the go-to guy for the Phillies? If you take away Bryce Harper, who's the guy that you think makes this team go, makes this team run? It's one question that we asked for once that Ray Dunn didn't answer, Ranger Suarez. So
I finally stopped. I had to get help.
Okay, so that's a good thing. My friend Joe sent me a text, and I have the same guy also. To me, it's a guy that a couple years ago that I said, man, his mannerisms, they kind of remind me of somebody else that used to play for the Phillies. And I got a lot of pushback on it, and I was like, look, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as the guy that he reminds me of. I'm just saying his mannerisms remind me of him. And I think it's grown more and more that I really see it. And that's Bryson Stott. He reminds me, he does so many things. He reminds me of Chase Utley.
I knew you were, as soon as you
Really?
said it, I knew you were going to say Bryson Stott with the comparison to Chase. And the funny thing is, and I agree with you, I think Bryson Stott, again, homegrown talent. So what's crazy is Ray says Alec Boehm, you say Bryson Stott. These are guys, we give all the credit in the world for the big name free agents they brought in, but those are two homegrown Phillies that they drafted, they developed. But you know what? You just reminded me, watching the game, and I don't want to get on Bryce. Love Bryce Harper, but he doesn't run hard to first base.
I knew you were going to say that.
You said Chase
said
Utley.
it out loud.
Yeah. Because you're watching the game. If he's running as hard as the Chase Utley would have ran, he would have beat that ball out. I'm forgetting the exact play.
It was he hit a slow dribbler off, he checked swing, and it was a slow dribbler, and it hurt his hands because they showed the replay. You could see the bat vibrate in his hands, and it was one of those days where you probably felt it a little more than you would on others. And, he puts the bat down and just kind of shakes his head and jogs.
And there's a bad throw. Pulls the first baseman off the bag.
Has to catch it and go back.
And then Bryce, tries, and it's like, man, come on. Run out every ball. But we give him the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't usually run out the balls like an Utley would. But
yeah, and it's little. Look, when you have 700 plate appearances a year, there's going to be times that you're ticked off at yourself. You're ticked off that, the ball hit the bat, and, that's the the result of it. But, I'm still that guy. I am. I'm still the one that watches. Goes, come on, you can't not run. But you're right. I'll take heat if people disagree with me. I'm not going to hold it against them.
no, we don't hold it against them. And I was actually at a party. We were watching the game, and I said it, and then everyone's like, yeah, but, we love Bryce. I said, so do I, but we love him because he comes up clutch in big moments. He panders. He does. He panders to us with the fanatic cleats and all that, and we let him slide. But other players, you're not getting away with that.
No, and it was it's a little thing because of what I said. You have over 700 plate appearances. I don't think it was as much a hustle thing as it was he was ticked off that ball hit bat on a check swing, and he was just like, oh, man, that was one of those at-bats. But I did notice it just like you did, Bill, and it's funny when you do that. But, yeah, Bryson Stott, to me, he's another guy that just doesn't really change expression all that much. He's one of the fun guys of the locker room because you see him doing the – what do they call it again, Ray? The
Chief Vibes Officer?
No. What do they call the young kids?
Daycare.
Yeah, the daycare. He's part of all that and the dumping of the water and the seeds and all. I'll take that. I think Bryson Stott is after Bryce Harper. In my book, I think he's the guy that makes that team go.
You know what the amazing thing is, and this is why this team's special, is you asked the question, and me, Ray, and you all gave different answers. It shows how good this team is.
Yeah, it is. And listen, we thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the best show ever. We'll be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thanks for being with us, everybody.